Welcome back to...
No, and we are live. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shit.
You should know us.
I know.
I still can't believe
I
it.
still can't believe it. It just sounds so good to not sound.
We've done it for how long now?
I'm too giddy when it comes to the shit. It don't even feel real. He's too... It's so professional.
Yeah.
I think we were waiting for you to come in, babe. And I was like, okay, Lamar. And I was like, 3, 2. And then he's like, he's like over there dilly-dallying on his phone. And then he started saying stuff. And I'm like, Lamar, we're live.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
And he goes, but you didn't. I'm like, yes, I did. He goes, oh, you did say 3, 2. I'm like, oh, gosh.
Lost.
Yeah. So we have a special, very, very special podcast today.
I can't even believe it's Sunday already.
I know. Mm-hmm. We have to wait for this one to say his chingadera that he loves to say.
Yeah, well.
I'm trying to get this.
You're trying to get it. Oh, you may have to refresh.
And my base is in the way. I can't see the screen. All right.
There you go.
There you go.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. Screen is kind of dark, but it's okay. It's all right. We ready?
Yeah, I'm
Start
ready.
over. Do it again.
Wait,
Count it down. Do it again.
No, but we're actually live.
Okay, but do it again.
3, 2.
Welcome back to the podcast, everybody.
Jesus Christ.
It's professional shit, man.
It is.
How do you not enjoy that? How do you keep a straight face and not enjoy that?
Just bring the fucking rabbit in for crying out
as
loud.
long as you believe you're professional, that's all
that matters.
counts.
I'm not trying to entertain this dude.
Yeah.
There goes the Wabbit.
Give me the hands. Give me the hands.
And it's got the famous red hoodie.
Yeah, I know.
I love when he does his hand, when he's doing his stuff, his music, and he does his hands.
I like the
Crazy hand Wabbit.
Oh, wait.
Thumbnail.
I was gonna say a super important question. Krazy Wabbit, how did you like the thumbnail?
It was awesome. That's why I even wore the. Now, am I shilling because I'm wearing the same thing as in the thumbnail? Is that?
No.
No. I was just wondering if you liked it.
No.
Oh yeah, awesome. Well,
Okay. Yeah.
You are in your proper attire. I don't think anyone could see the Wabbit outside of his proper attire. You're just missing the black ears that stick out of it.
Stick out. Yeah. We need to get him.
I got pants on. Sorry.
I love
now
this.
you see there.
I gotta leave. See you guys. Been nice talking to you.
Oh,
God.
I need to get him like glue on bunny ears for his head.
Yeah, black ones though.
Yeah. To just glue on the headsets.
He's a black Wabbit. Yeah.
Yes.
There's not a lot of black Wabbits out there.
No, but there's some. I hear those are the tastier ones.
So I have a question before you. Am I allowed to curse on this podcast?
No, absolutely
Fuck
not.
no.
The hell are you talking about?
No, but
Well,
we are.
because I was watching I was watching the twins talk, and I think it was Lamar just went off and it was like everything was beat. And like, I guess I got to be clean here.
Oh no! You just caught one of those podcasts where Marilyn felt like we were doing overboard right off the bat.
Yeah.
We normally like to give it a couple 2-3 minutes before we start going ham.
I think we've given up on that though.
Yeah.
I think she's giving up on
us.
I think I've just given up. Yeah. Completely.
Yeah.
I used to have my finger on the mute button. It just got tired because it would always be on the mute button. So now I'm like, if you can't fight them, fucking join them.
Yeah, but I'm a little nervous though because my nose, it's a little sensitive after a couple of interactions. So I do need to be on my best behavior because I don't want it to come through the camera and bloody it up. It's a little messy.
You should have listened the first couple of times.
We weren't always that way.
Your nose, my head hurts every day.
Oh wow.
I flinch every day.
I am not that violent.
Huh?
Stop.
Okay.
I used to be
in
violent.
the beginning of our podcast, you would notice we seldomly used any of the filth flarned filth.
Flit and flarting
It was seldom.
and flar for garden. Yeah. Fear the Vasquez. Steve, you're not helping the situation now.
Fear the Vasquez.
Look, back in my heyday, yes, I would have said you must fear me. My nickname was the Nose Crusher at one point in time. Okay.
Yeah, keep reminding us.
Yes, and so and I loved that nickname because I earned it for a reason. I'm not like that anymore.
What you guys
far
don't see
from it.
behind the screen is the wicked smile and enjoyment as she says all this shit.
Because I really did enjoy it.
Easy gun, easy gunner.
I love.
We're not in there anymore, champ. Get out of the ring.
Especially being 5'2".
Oh, bravo.
I love being called the nose
bravo.
crusher. And putting people to sleep every now and then. That was always fun. You know.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You choked the shit out of me one time too.
You know, well, you didn't listen.
But I choked you back. So.
Yes, you did.
Oh my God. Can I get a civ rep, please, sir?
Yeah, get a room. Please get a room.
Yeah. No, it's always fun being woken up in a chokehold.
In a chokehold. I woke her up in the chokehold. She had to get out of it, but she couldn't.
Yeah.
Go back to sleep before this gets crazy.
Yeah.
I'm the cameraman, so you know.
Lamar.
Yes.
You are not.
Okay, look, are we going to interview Rabbit or are we going to keep fucking ourselves?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hi, Rabbit.
Oh.
Also known as the General.
Also known as Kawasawasi.
Are you nervous at all?
I didn't sleep very well last night. I was up about 2 o'clock this morning. So yeah, I'm extremely nervous. Yeah.
But not because of this,
no,
right?
he never sleeps.
Yeah.
You want to know how I know? Because I'm always up
Because you're up when he's up.
Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck is he doing up at 2 in the
And
morning?
he's probably like, what the hell is he doing up at 2 in the morning? And I'm waking up going, what the hell are both of these guys doing up at 2 in the morning?
And then I wake up to go pee and I'm like, oh, the guys are up again. I'm going back to sleep.
There you go.
What's up, Rabbit, man?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, man.
This is an honor. This is an honor, seriously.
No, the honor is ours.
Yeah, I was going to say, having the Wabbit on is like having yourself on.
Right. How far have you gotten in catching up on our podcast?
I think as the twins talk, I had to put the pause on with all of the live streams and trying to catch up on everybody's January. So I've neglected you guys a bit. I hope that's not held against me, but it's been fun to dig back in your catalog and to get to know you guys outside of what you're doing now. And the last one, I'm literally in tears. The twins talk, the centipede getting crushed, and it's funny. I just love when you go back and forth and it's yes. And then the one thing I've noticed, and I could be wrong in this, but it seems like Lamar is the one that gets Lamont to laugh a lot. I've kind of picked up a little bit on that. He'll be saying something and you just lose it.
Right.
Yes.
It's a fun dynamic.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like that all the time. In the podcast, out the podcast, in the house, out of the house, all the time. It's like that. Lamar gets
God damn it, Meryl.
Going.
I ain't the catalyst here, okay?
No, you are.
Yes,
Okay.
you are.
I might spark a little shit here.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to you, Wabbit. Let's not get too much involved with us.
But that's super cool.
but
Thank
it
you
is
for
cool.
doing that.
Not a lot of people would consider doing that.
Yeah, or taking the time and doing that. Yeah.
And picking up on our personal, don't dissect us. I feel like you have this eye, like you pay attention to detail. You know so much about me.
I wouldn't say it depends. Clearly, in this whole hobby space, I am not about perfection. I'm just about having fun. In my 9-to-5 job, which is over there because I work from home, detail's important. That's obvious. And then in my what I call my adulting, it depends too. You know, it's all about having fun. So it depends on what we're talking about. You know, in terms of that.
Yeah,
right.
We have our very first question from our chat, and it's a very important question, and it comes from Kent. He wants to know, can he cuddle with your dog?
Oh, now, absolutely. But the question is, will you be wearing the thong? And it has to have Marmite because if he doesn't like it, the cat will come and make sure that you're taken care of. So absolutely. And if you want to film it, maybe we can, work on something there because that's an option too.
I am a camera guy, just so you know. All right.
And what is your dog's name?
Duncan.
Duncan.
Yeah.
Duncan
we adopted him. He came with that name. That was not our name that we gave him.
Right.
Oh, and how old is he?
He will be 5. We lost our last golden, I think it was end of last year. He was 13, Harley. That was my partner's dog. I grew up with Siamese cats. I had shepherds for a while. So I'm a cat dog. We actually have 2 cats. You may see one of them hopefully he doesn't show the stink star. That's Reggie. then you may have to black me out, and
Oh no, my friend. Stink stars get play here.
Yeah, so that may happen. I guess we should forewarn those that that may come across.
At least we don't have a Jervis moment where the cat's assholes
in
his tea or on his
that's...
pastries, and
and
Jervis eats it happily with hair. Asshole tasting cookies with hair on it.
Oh my gosh, that's just crazy.
Okay, Rabbit. Let's do this. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody.
Welcome back.
And today we have, is it Krazy?
So it's Krazy. That's the
Krazy.
Yeah. That's a long story. My legal name is John Krazy. I'm not going to go to the middle name. That's something when I meet you guys in September, I can give you the scoop on that.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. So there's more to it, but why the John? That's a long story. I don't know why it was on my birth certificate. The reason why when I moved to Nevada, the DMV had to match your birth certificate. So throughout my life, it's always been Krazy, Kwesi, and it rhymes with Stacy. So that's kind of the easy way to remember it. So that's how you pronounce it. Yep.
Krazy.
I like that.
Krazy
That's
Wabbit?
the first time I've said this on this at all publicly. So it's
oh wow.
Oh, it's a big step
Well,
for
you
you.
know,
you guys are getting the scoop.
That's how it goes on Monkey Island.
Here on the Continental.
The Continental cares about you, and we care to help you if you need it and if you want it.
Now, I've been called all kinds of names, so if you want to call me, asshole or idiot or hardhead, I mean, as a former ER nurse, trust me, I've been called every name in the book. You cannot offend me. I got called Kiwi one time. I'm like, okay, I know it's a hard name, but where are you getting that?
Yeah. You need to use your vowels, sir.
Properly.
Yes.
Well, like poor Simon, Great Batch.
Yeah, great bitch.
Great bitch.
That's just being lazy right there.
Yeah, I know.
Kiwi's being lazy too.
Yeah.
So, Wabbit, tell us take us back, man. Take us back to the youth. What was times like? What's being played in the radio? I know it's not all been music for you. What was
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up with music. I was born in 71. It was basically jazz. My dad was a massive classical fan. R&B, I can remember Stevie Wonder being played. I think my earliest recollection was Mannheim Steamroller. And I can, to this day, when that I just call it the bass when it drops. That was my first introduction. This would have been mid-70s. So it was a lot of cassette tapes, Jim Croce, Jim Taylor, a wide range of stuff. It was a good childhood. I mean, my dad was a strict disciplinarian. He grew up in the civil rights era. So discipline was, the belt. It was, go get it. It was a different time back then. So there were some parts that I need to be very careful when I say it was hard and rough, because I listened to other people's stories and I'm still here. It could have been a lot worse. But that's what I, recall when I was growing up. But music was just more of as a consumer. So I remember in 6th grade, we had a music class. Violin was my first introduction, and I sucked at it. I could not. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I just couldn't do it. Right. I was in choir for that class, and I only did it because there was a cookie afterwards. I could not stand. I was lip syncing. You talk about Milli Vanilli. We were. I was faking that pretty hard. So I always just enjoyed listening to music.
What state were you born in?
Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, actually.
Okay. Ohio.
Wow.
So you had all of this experience in Ohio first.
Yeah, I didn't leave Ohio till 93, and then I moved to Richmond, Indiana, where my first job was. I think it's south of you guys.
Right.
So what's your nationality?
So African. My dad's black, my mom's white. That has always been what's the word I want to say? Depending on who you talk to, especially growing up. Called all kinds of things, mutt, mulatto, mixed.
Oh yes.
I'm like, I'm like, that's a name for a dog. I'm a human being, and when you understand history and knowing that at one time in this country, black folks were not even considered a whole person.
No, 3/5 of a human being.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. So that's how I was raised, and I think that was my first early introduction to labels. Now I didn't have to deal with the racism my dad had to growing up. He, as a black man, he clearly dealt. We heard his stories. We saw it firsthand. I recognize my mom's side, and and I don't really have time to get into with other people, I should say, when we had those conversations where you like ignoring that side. It's like, that's how I was raised. That's who I am. And then again, based on history, that's what I am. So I've had to carry a picture of my mom and dad, you know, for proof, because I've had people say, you know, you're lying. I'm like, well, when I used to have a big afro, so it's like, okay, my hair, my nose, you know, just because my skin color may look a certain thing. So that's the origin, I should say.
Yeah.
So real quick, there's a question in the chat. So the name is African descent?
Yeah, Ghana. So if for those of you who will get on the internet and you're going to fact check me, because when I was brought up, we had a book of African names, and you put the Kwesi, because I never knew about John being on my birth certificate. So I didn't know about that until I can't remember how old I was. So it was always Kwesi. There's a middle name that I'm not gonna go into, and I was told that it means learn from the Father, conquer strength, and become invincible. But then as I looked up Kwesi as I got older, it actually means born on Sunday. I think it was Sunday. I can't remember, but we're born on Wednesday. I wasn't born on that day. So if anyone wants to go say, no, wait a minute, you're lying, Wabbit. No, that's kind of how we were told. So
yeah, that's cool.
You ever so in elementary, I remember, because the kids can be so cruel. Our mother came to the school to come pick, I think it was the both of us up. And when our mother comes to the school to pick us up, the kids were, the next day would be like, we saw your mom. What are you guys, adopted? What are you guys are adopted? And we would tell the kids, no, that's our mom. Well, only thing they saw was a white woman coming to the school. They're like, how does that work?
Right.
And I think it had to be in like 3rd or 4th grade, right? And kids are just so goddamn mean. I remember asking moms, I was like, why are the kids saying we adopted? And I remember moms told me, she was like, that's because you're mixed.
Yeah.
And kids are assholes. I think that's exactly how she said it.
Yeah. and our friends used to say, why does your grandmother speak like that? And how do you understand what your grandmother is saying?
Because she has a heavy...
Because she had a heavy Irish gypsy accent who was living in Wisconsin at the time. So you can only imagine, Wabbit, what the fuck that sounded like to people who had no idea what different ethnicities, where they come from, what they sound like. And then for us to be in that environment and then see a black guy for our father, they were like, what in the hell is this? But kids don't know. Kids don't witness that firsthand.
How much of that did you experience offhand?
I'll be honest with you, it didn't seem to be too bad. I think fortunately everything was just kind of kept in the hood, if that makes sense. There was no social media, no internet. It was just us. And I don't recall that being really a big issue. I think the biggest thing was just the name. As I got older and we started talking about religion, because I was born or brought up atheist. And I think when people found that out, that was more of an issue than with my folks. I do remember Dad coming to school. I do remember Mom coming to school, and both at a time. But I never really got that vibe in terms of, what's this? So it never really, hit me. And Dad was big on history, so I think he, in his own way, did the best that he could to kind of, teach us that history part of it. If we ever encountered it. So it was never a big thing for me that I recall, and it's not an issue for me today.
Did you ever catch flack? So my brother and I were like, we would call ourselves chameleons, right? We could speak hood in the lingo, and when it was time to speak as if, which you did, you have an education, you use proper grammar. You ever get flack from the black side, and they would always say things, why do you talk white? Why do you sound like
y'all
that?
sellouts?
Y'all
we used to get that a lot.
We used to get that a lot.
Yeah.
No, I think, and as I think about it, when I got into junior high and high school, we had a lot of folks who were on the lighter side of the color spectrum. So it became a little bit of a melting pot in an area. So no, I don't recall that. I don't particularly recall like talking a certain way or hanging out with a certain group of folks. I don't know if it's just because where we lived, but it was never something that, if anything, I think it might come from those from the outside. So in my dealings with folks, and especially white folks, as you got older and you started, whether it was your name or if you kind of said certain things or certain things of that sort, that's where the question would come. But I know when I go back to visit my family, it was almost as if people knew who you were, people recognized. And I've actually had a couple people who would say, "Oh yeah, I know you're black," or they have seen the name before, and that kind of shocked me. So it's almost as if that makes sense. So it never was something that I feel like I needed to fit in. My mom has a sister. They had kids, and they were a little bit more on the I wouldn't say dark. Well, they were darker than us, but so we kind of connected with them. And then my brother, who's no longer here, we were 4 years apart. We were kind of thick as thieves, and he was a lot more outgoing than I was. And I think he was the one that kind of adopted the lingo, the talk, the the vibe and everything. And it was never an issue. So
yeah, for you, I feel like you got away. You were fortunate, but what was the neighborhood like? Obviously, you weren't in this. Well, I don't know. Were you in the ghetto setting?
No.
Okay, so that may have been why you didn't get as much flack. My brother and I, on the other hand,
South Central LA,
and you are catching all the smoke. Because you stand out like a sore thumb. It's you could not get away from it.
If anyway, you could say maybe we were sheltered because Dayton was. I wouldn't say we were in the inner city of Dayton. If you're familiar, there's the west side, so we weren't there. And I don't know, my dad never said anything about trying to shelter, but then we moved to a town called Trotwood, and my folks still live there. So that would be considered, something called the suburbs. And, it was not in the inner city. So no, we didn't see, and I've heard what you guys have talked about. So no, I never experienced that.
Yeah.
So what made you so what came first? The notion you wanted to be a nurse or the music?
You mean music today, messing around with stuff?
Or
has it been well, okay, let's go back from the childhood and okay, so we get what you were listening to. What after that?
Right.
Let's go pre-teens.
Yeah.
What was the fantasy
or the dream
dream?
Sports was big, but I was too small. Wanted to play baseball. I was 97 pounds in junior high, so I was in the flyweight for wrestling class, and I even lost against my opponents.
Oh man!
I'm only. Now I'm 5'10", but back then who knows how tall I was. So I was not a big kid. So sports was out.
Right.
You would play in the backyard. I honestly didn't know what I was going to do in my preteens, to be honest with you. I think computers was a big thing. My dad had his own computer company, traveled around the Midwest, so I was exposed to that. I remember listening to, it was Herbie Hancock in 83, 84, and there was a song called Rocket. I'll never forget, had a beatbox, and it came on the radio. And I remember, you would call into the DJ, "Hey, can you play Herbie Hancock Rock?" He's like, "Look, kid, I just played it. Simmer down." And he literally hung up on me, like, "Damn, sorry." So, that's how he had. So then I remember when it came on the radio, recorded it. And unfortunately, my sister was young, and towards the end of the song, I don't have the tape anymore, but like she said something, I'm like, "Fuck," So, but that song to me was my first introduction, I think, to electronic music. And then rap came along. So I was just kind of listening to stuff. And then in terms of the nursing, I wanted to go get my computer science degree out of high school. And I was not very good at art. I remember being in an art club, and I did some drawing, a self-portrait. I think if I digged up my high school yearbook, it's in there. And then I looked at everybody else's work. I'm like, damn. I don't know what imposter syndrome was back then, but I vividly remember looking at others who, it was just night and day. I'm like, okay, this is not for me. But I also enjoyed, I remember we had, I mentioned computers. So we grew up on Macintosh, and I had like Mac Paint, and there was these clip art things. And I would create these flyers, because every year we would have this housewarming party, and I would just had a blast doing that. So that creative spark came from back then. I even remember in junior high, we took a trip to DC and New York, and I had to pay my way to get there. and we baked banana breads and cookies, and I created a flyer, lugged them in a bag, sent them to school. So I had that creative spark from that end. But in terms of the nursing part, I didn't want to go to school to get a computer science degree because I was also impatient. I wanted to do something that made an impact, and that came from what my dad taught with history. And I remember at an early age, like, I want to make a change now. And I think we all went through this phase, like, we want to change the world, we want to make a difference. But I didn't have the patience for another 4 years. And at that time, computers, this is 1990 when I graduated. And the internet was just kind of taking off. AOL was really big, but I didn't really foresee anything. And my mom was a LPN in maternity and delivery unit at the hospital, and I remember she brought home a book called Nursing, and she gave it to me, and I was reading through it, and I get to the section on emergency room nursing, and I was hooked. Like, this is it. Because for me, what I read was, you never know what's going to come through the door. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. So I never had any clue about being a nurse. And then I remember going on.
What age was that when you read the book?
So this is 1990. So I would have been, I got to do the math here. Help me. 19?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
18,
you're 71, 18 years old?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I remember going to a school that was a diploma school, and I got back from the trip, and they gave us a picture, and it hit me like, holy shit, there's like 40 people in this picture. I'm the only guy in there. And it never really bothered me, to be honest with you, going into nursing as a male. I had a class. I went to school in Kettering, Ohio. Kettering College of Medical Arts is still around today. There were maybe 150 people in the class, 10 guys. And just like the whole thing with growing up that you talked about, I never had any issues, about anything, whether it was working in my clinicals. And I think a lot of it was because there was no social media around. It was just kind of, we were in our little bubble, and I didn't really get any outside. So I never caught any slack for that. And that's how I got into nursing.
Are you still practicing being an atheist, or is that like a phase you went through? Or
yeah, it was interesting because I was listening to the conversation yesterday, and with Robbie, and I think I mentioned I was painting the space here. I'm like, damn, that sounds like a long lost brother to me. That was really cool to hear. But practicing, I don't know if that's the right word. I've gone through some phases. I grew up atheist. That's how we were raised. Now it's interesting. And I put in air quotes, celebrated Christmas. We had a Christmas tree, did presents, but we didn't do the whole, like, go to church. I never really read any of the Bible stuff. I thought about trying to do that to have some kind of knowledge, but as I grew older, I just didn't really, based on my interaction with other people, didn't have the time for that. I probably say, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I went through this agnostic phase where I'm like, wait a minute, how can I say that I know everything? I agree with what I was taught, but when I had to ask myself, and I remember having a conversation with my dad, and he's a hardcore atheist. I mean, hardcore to the bone. He wasn't born that way or raised that way. I can't remember exactly what he was raised. He had some falling out with the church, and that's where he came. But I remember having a conversation with him, and it was like, yeah, he's a bit hardcore. I don't think we're going to see eye to eye on this. And so I kind of go back and forth. But to be honest with you, it's not, outside of these conversations, or if it comes up, it's not something that I publicly talk about. It's not something that I profess. I still feel, I remember reading an article a long time ago that, people who, there was a poll or something, and like atheists were ranked down there with like criminals in terms of, trustability and things of that sort. I'm like, really? Like, come on,
Okay.
I don't believe in a God. So that was kind of an eye opener. So I had to, it's interesting as I look around today and all the things that people are dealing with when they aren't part of the norm. And for me, my entire life, I mean, I've got a funny first name. I come from an interracial marriage or family, atheist. I went through a phase of not eating meat as a teenager. So there were a lot of little things that, I'm not saying that these were like, I never dealt with any type of discrimination. I never dealt with any type of that. But I never felt comfortable having conversations or sharing that because it's not the norm. So my entire life has always been kind of being different. So if that makes sense.
And now he's a general.
Now he's a general.
A pantsless general at time.
Of the S.O.R program. It could be quite the general. So where's your thoughts now with like belief in things, you know, because for me, I don't really believe, I wouldn't call myself an atheist by any stretch of the imagination, but I'll never believe anything man has said or written throughout the history of our time, because I just know man, and we have wild ways to fabricate many things. And so I kind of live by a code of, I experience what I experience. That's my reality. But you're not going to sit here and tell me that your God is better than this God, and you're going to go to hell if you don't believe in this. And like, all that stuff to me is hogwash, because people like to put labels on you. They like to tell you what's going to happen after this life as if they know it 100%. Everything is based off of belief. And the power of belief can do strange things to a human's mind. It could block out pretty much everything but your belief in it. And you will not see a human in front of you at one point or another. And you have these cold convictions as if you are 100% right about it all. You know?
Robbie put it really good in the chat, and he said, your religion or a lack thereof should be treated like your genitals. Don't wave them around in public.
Exactly. Where's your kind of belief system? Is it gotten any more adventurous, or is it just kind of stagnant? Yeah.
I think it was stagnant up until December 28th of 2018. That was the day that I was married for almost 20 years, and my then wife, Erin, she died in her sleep. And up to that point, I don't know if I heard this on your podcast, but I heard you guys have used some kind of a phrase where you're just kind of going through life. You're going through the motions. And I was that guy. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 2012 because I was in denial. I let things go. And I was just kind of going through life. You know, I was a caregiver, taking care of things for her. I was also functioning, you know, as a nurse, as a caregiver. That's what I was doing. And I think during the grieving phase of early 2019, in terms of all the kind of thoughts that went through my head, I heard everything from friends saying, you know, you're going to be visited by her, if I would have a dream about her. Or I'll never forget, there was one time I have my keyboard fell in the house, and I'm very particular about my stuff. Her middle initial was G, and when the keyboard fell, I pick it up, and what would be the only key that was missing out of that? I'm like,
G.
the fuck?
Yeah.
Now, again, here I am, you know, going through the motions and no real belief in anything. And I remember also one time sitting out on the patio and thinking I heard her voice. And then I actually had to go to therapy. I remember doing this thing called, it was something with rapid eye. I've heard it mentioned before. So there's an initial or acronym for it. And the therapist said to me that, and I'll be honest with you, I think I also looked for, so let me back up. So my work offered where I could go to a therapist, and I went to the office, and somehow the conversation got on religion. I mentioned I was an atheist, and from there, that moment on, I could tell something in her eye was like, fuck, this guy doesn't believe in God. And it was almost like I got grilled. And she also had a timer on the desk. Like I could see the clock, 45 minutes. I'm like, okay, this is not good. And I remember hearing, I know I'm getting off track here, but I said, you know, you need to find a therapist that works for you. And I'm like, okay, I think I went to a secular website. I'm like, okay, I'm not getting anybody that has in religion. So I found this person, and their explanation to me, and I use the word explanation because that's what this is what you were experiencing is your brain's, you know, just dealing with the trauma and to go with it. Now, if you want to read into it, if you want to do that, that's your choice. because I had this dream where this has never happened to me, where one night, having a conversation with her, and then I wake up, it was like a cold sweat, and the dream continued the next night. That was very bizarre for me. And my dreams are all over the place, but to have something continue the next night, that freaked me out, and that's why I spoke to the therapist. So where I'm going with this is, yes, during that time frame, I did meditation. I remember sitting in the couch doing something where the person was saying, have a conversation with her. And the one thing that she told me, because she was dealing with a lot of medical problems, she said, it's almost as if she knew something was going to happen. She said, one, get out there, live your life. Do not sit on the fucking couch, live your life. And it's very interesting in your conversation yesterday during the Dixon chat talking about that. And when I was hearing your response, I just kept thinking, yeah, I was in that moment in terms of, she said that to me. And then the other was, when that time is right, find somebody. So I focused on living my life, but during the grieving spot or part, I questioned a lot of things. I questioned, is there something? And then I think for me, the reason why I never wavered from my non-belief is I even remember different parts throughout, especially my youth, when I would have conversation with folks. And I think Robbie touched upon this yesterday, talking about his sister, is, how could this happen? Why would something take away something from you? And the responses that I would get just never made sense to me. You don't know what the plan is. It just didn't make sense. And then I had a good friend who I no longer am friends with. That's another story. They talked about their situation, and they talked to their loved ones, and it just was like, my brother died in '99. He committed suicide. And we were thick as thieves. We were 4 years apart, and I never had those experiences. So there was a part of me that was thinking, well, there's something wrong with me, because people would tell me, well, you're not believing. You need to, open yourself. And I would hear all these kind of different thoughts, and none of them just really made sense to me. So where I'm at today, I'm where I was before in terms of belief. I'm in the moment. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the past. I have this 80-10-10 rule. 80%, I'm here now, I'm present. 10%, I'll look in the rearview mirror. 10%, I'll look forward. It's kind of like when I'm driving. I can't be looking in the rearview mirror. I'm going to wreck myself. But yeah, I mean, I don't really. I think Robbie's got a point. I keep my stuff to myself. I've never in my life try to change anyone.
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's interesting, because and I probably should have asked this first then, so we can get on the same ground as to what happened internally and mentally. What was your wife's name?
Erin.
Okay, take us back to the first day. Now, I have a great understanding of where your belief system is before you met Erin, and things weren't lining up the way you would see them now. Take us back to where you first met this woman, and give us a little bit of backstory on her before we press forward.
Yeah. So we were introduced through a mutual friend in Chicago. I had just came out of a relationship that I was still kind of in one, but what's the best way to say it? It was basically a booty call. Let's just be honest with you. I lived in Chicago. She was in just outside of Gary, Indiana, and I would drive there. Matter of fact, here's a funny story. I'm on my way down there, and it was raining. I get in the wreck because we were gonna, hang out, and I'm like, I come this way, my neck is sore. So what? I'm gonna go through with it, but it just wasn't anything there. So I'm like, okay. So a friend of mine said, hey, I got a friend from. She lived in Bloomington, Normal, Illinois, which is about 2 hours south of Chicago. And, come out, be a good time. The club was called Kaboom, someplace in Chicago. Or, Coco Cabana, I can't remember. Anyway, so I'm like, I'm not going to. I think so, yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to come out. I'm not really in the mood. And then she pressed me, like, fine. And I get there, and there was just something about her. It was just like kind of what you see in the movie. It's like, wow. Now, here's the sad part is, after we spent the night, they had a hotel room and left the next morning. You can kind of fill in the blank what happened. I'll, let you use your imagination. There might be kids listening. But I remember
there should be no kids listening.
Yeah, right.
To this show.
Not to this show.
Yeah. So I remember saying, you know, because my game was horrible. I was a very horrible type of a person when it comes to dating. I had no skill whatsoever. I'm like, hey, I'll email you. I thought it was the cool thing to say. And I remember she was saying, who says that? You know, it's a phone number. So I thought she said I would never hear from her again. And we were talking about,
funny.
Yeah, we were talking about books and everything, and just had a really good conversation outside of everything else. And I actually called her, went down to meet her folks. I can't remember the time frame of this. We met in March of '98. That's when the first meeting occurred. I proposed to her in October of that year, and then we got married in January of '99. So it was fairly quick. But I remember going down to meet her folks, and then come to find out that, you know, they didn't really believe in any religion. I wouldn't say they were, you know, strict atheists, but religion was not a big thing for them. So that was kind of a nice connection. She was not religious at all. And then we moved up to Chicago. So that's kind of how things started and how I met her.
Okay.
Love at first sight.
Love at first sight.
The reason why I laughed at that shit, because I told Sonya that same thing. Hey, I'll just give you my email, and she was like, "The fuck? What do you mean? Back in 1999? Give me your goddamn phone number." And I was like,
less personal though.
"Oh yeah, oh yeah, phone number, huh?"
But an email is less personal. Like,
but
you
the
don't
funny
want to
thing is,
assume somebody's
I
going to
know,
give
but
you
the
their
funny
phone
shit is, I did the same thing Wabbit did.
Yeah.
My game sucks too, dude.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So, okay, now, what was your wife's favorite color? Like, what was she into? What was her life like?
Favorite color, probably pink. She was in the medical field as I was. She worked as an EMT. Actually went back to school to get some additional training. And then she got into personal training. She went to school for that. And then I think what really was kind of she was much more outgoing than I was. So in terms of personality type, she was the extrovert. You know, we would go out to clubs, and, you know, she was, you know, the one who was partying. I was the one that was kind of, I wouldn't say just sitting in the back, you know, just sipping on a drink, but I wasn't, but we matched, we got together, you know, we clicked. And it wasn't until she had a back injury, when we lived in Colorado, that things kind of started to, you know, take a turn for the worse. So, you know, it was a great, I can't remember what year this was, but, you know, it was really, really good. You know, we had a lot of fun. We hung out. We moved to Vegas in 2009, primarily because I was traveling, doing healthcare IT consulting, and she was by herself a lot. And her family her sister and husband moved out to Vegas a year before. So that was the reason why we went there. And then I think the injury had kind of occurred in Denver, so it was a way to kind of get her. Medications came in the picture, and it just really, you know, her sleep just kind of got messed up, got on some stuff for that. Opioids became an issue.
How was her health compromised? What led to this?
The back injury.
The back injury. Yeah, she was doing, you know, getting into personal training and fitness, and lifted too much weight. And it got to the point where we were trying to get some surgery at some point, had to deal with insurance. That was a freaking nightmare. You know,
insurance and back injuries are the worst, I tell you.
Yeah. So when I hear you talk about it, it's almost as if, I definitely feel you on that. So, you know, when that happened, you know, things just kind of change. And, you know, here I am working as a nurse. And so, like I mentioned earlier, I'm taking care of people at work, and then I have to come home and be a caregiver. And, you know, it was hard seeing her struggle. And there were some pretty, I don't want to say dark stories, but it could get pretty deep in terms of things. And I'm sure that other people have experienced this. And so I'm nothing, you know, usual, but, let's just say medications was a big sticking point. There were 2 points during the marriage that I almost left. Actually was in the car at one point driving away. But I was raised to kind of stick things out. I never once thought, I mean, I know I just said looking to leave, but it was just more of a, threat kind of a thing.
Frustration.
But that's how I was raised, not to walk away. And so it was hard for her. It was physically painful for her. But then there was also me, the caregiver. And that was one of the things that I had talked about when I was doing podcasting, prior to this happening and afterwards, is like, the caregiver is a thankless job. I know I'm getting off topic, but
no, you're not. You're doing good.
Yep.
So that's kind of where things, went for us. So it was great until the injury, and things kind of changed from there.
This is your interview. There's no going off topic.
Exactly.
We can go wherever
you want to go.
Your little crazy rabbit heart desires.
I'm just trying to fill in some gaps here.
But we can totally understand that whole back injury and medication.
Yes, we can.
Because we've been trying so hard to get off of the dang and just pressuring the doctors and be like, we don't want to be on this bullshit anymore. Like, we're done. Like, done. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So now, take me through the day or the days before she passed. Have you noticed like there was a change in mannerisms? Had you had a sense that there was a period of her giving up or something was on the horizon there?
No, looking back on it, because trust me, that goes through your mind like, 100 times. Did I miss something? You hear that all the time. And no, now in the past, I knew that she was struggling. I knew that, there were conversations, I don't want to continue on, but I just took it as the frustration. And I vividly remember the day before everything happened. She had just bought this new, kind of outfit, and, she was excited to wear it. I could remember her walking from the kitchen, toward the room where my office was, and then into the room. Sleep was a major, major problem for her. I mean, there were days that she would be awake for 4 or 5 days straight, and then would crash hard, for 12, 16 hours, even though she was on this medication. But it was just to the point where the body just had a tolerance that it just needed more and more. And then it was, I mean, there were countless trips to the emergency room. There were, we were under pain control management. It was a lot. But when you had those small moments where she felt good. So no, to answer your question, I didn't see anything that it was just kind of like, and then we had the other thing too, is we had this surgery that we were hopeful. She had been going to a chiropractor, and then there was a surgery that was, giving us signs of hope. We had it scheduled, matter of fact. And I had fought tooth and nail with the insurance company, and was just so fucking pissed with them that, they were just putting this thing off and denying, and we had to, it was just a back and forth thing. And we actually had a date of, I can't remember, January 20th. That sticks out to me as like, that was the date that her surgery was going to be. So we were literally counting down, and I would tell her, hey, we've got 4 weeks. Hey, we've got this amount of weeks, and, hang in there. And so the night that it happened, this was where she was in her, she'd been awake for 4 or 5 days, and she just crashes, just goes to sleep. So this was just like anything else. And I remember, going to the store to get something, and I would just peek in, just check in. She was, laying there asleep. And I always wanted to, we had 2 dogs at the time, two German Shepherds. So I tried to keep things quiet to let her sleep. And I come back, check in again, just everything's normal. And I think it was probably, I don't know, it was because she died. The official time of death was like 2:18 in the morning. So it was probably, I don't know, 1 or something. And I, just go check on her. It's like, she's not moving. And the part for me that was, I vividly remember this, like, this is fucked up. In my regular job, it was doing CPR on people on a regular basis. And here I am on a loved one. And no one should have to do this. And it's very interesting as I hear people talk, either in your podcast or in general, they're like, you get kind of choked up. And it's been 6 years, and I can still remember that. And getting on the phone, being frank. I mean, everything that you can imagine. If you've never gone through anything like this before, but you see something on TV or you hear somebody's story, and then just the panic that sets in. It's like, I'm not supposed to be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
This is not what's supposed to be happening. And then trying to get her off of the bed. I mean, it was just, I don't know what got me to do that. And I'm holding on the phone. And I'm like, you know, where's the fucking ambulance? Are they on their way? Everything you can think of is just like, that's what was happening. And obviously, you know, she was too far gone by then.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was a moment that I think will live with, not think, it will live with me forever. And I remember in the early couple days, a term called PTSD, and I was scared to death that experience was going to somehow, and I think it was because of what I did in my profession and what I saw and what people, you hear stories. And I remember saying, okay, I'm going to do what I can, if possible, whether it's therapy, whether it's, I don't know what, something to make sure that I recognize when these signs come up, because I am not going to let this, and I think it came from what she said, you know, you got to live your life. So yeah, it was a horrible night. I think what really hit me was probably, I don't know, day 2 or 3, the silence. I think that was the first thing that hit me, because we were going on 20 years of marriage. So for 20 years, you had another human being in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And despite everything that I said that we went through the past several years, there was a presence. There was conversation. There were arguments. There were yelling. There was a night that the cops had to be called because we got into a bit of what do you want to call it?
Kerfuffle.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty intense, but there was something there. And I remember getting out of the shower, and it's like, fuck, it was just nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was a rough night, and it's something that I haven't really talked about much in this context before.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you can picture everything. You can just, and then having to make the phone call, because, you know, this is in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Her folks by now, her mom and dad have moved to Vegas. So I have to make the phone call to them, to her sister, and then to my folks. That was also hard, because then I had to replay
everything
3 times. Yeah. And I'm like, fuck, you know, so then the cops had to, you know, they were there because, you know, EMS came, and then the cops came there, you know, to kind of figure out what's going on, and to try and be in that, you know, this sounds strange, but, you know, you see things, and it's like, I'm now in this, because, you know, when I was in the hospital, we would hear of stories, people come in, and it's like, wait a minute, it was just surreal, and I never saw this coming, and you know, she was 47 years old
mm-hmm.
at the time. We had conversations about what to do for her 50th, you know, celebrating that. We really were looking forward to things getting better, but I think when I look upon that, I think we were saying that I think anybody who is in a situation where there are drugs, medication, addiction, you hear those moments and you think, oh, it's going to get better, and then it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of the mindset that I was in. So
yeah. So, what was her back injury?
When she was lifting, so she was doing some, I can't remember the exact, you know, nature. I wasn't there, but she was actually becoming a personal trainer. She had completed school. She wanted to switch from EMS to personal training. And then when she was at the gym, she did some lifting injury, lifted too much weight. I think it was like a back press or something. I can't recall the exact nature.
So it was like herniated or
something in the lower back. Yeah. She would go to a chiropractor, and, you know, it was just, I can't remember what this procedure was, but we'd done a lot of research on it, and it had a lot of promise to, and that, I think the thing that frustrated me is she never got a chance to get that surgery. And that's the thing that I really wish, you know, looking back on it, that, mm-hmm. you know, who knows what would have happened, but
yeah.
So how does the Krazy Wabbit bounce back from this mentally? So someone that's going through it or may go through it,
yeah,
inevitably, how does the Wabbit do it? How did he get through it?
Yeah. This is my story, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't want this to come across as a recipe. That's one thing that I've learned is this is my story. We're all different. And how I choose to get through this, it may not work for you. But there may be bits and pieces, and I like telling the story, and I'm a big fan of stories. So for me, I think it started with the physical part first. That's how I approached it. So I mentioned type 2 diabetes, and I was pissed off at myself for not getting that in check when we were married. So I remember going to my doctor, like, okay, my A1C, I think it was like 7.1. And I found hiking. So I was in a, first thing I did was I went on Facebook because I was a big Facebook, person, unfortunately, and I don't really do that anymore. And I found support groups. And let me back up. I actually thought I tried to find some in person in town, but everything was religious based, and I didn't want any of that. I've already explained kind of where I was at, so I was looking for something different, and I found some groups on Facebook, and there was a lady in there who said, I just went out in my neighborhood and took a walk around the block. She lived in New York. And when I got back home, I realized, wow, I just felt a lot better. And that's what I'm talking about. She shared her story. It wasn't, hey, go do this. So I'm like, okay, let me go out to Red Rock Canyon in Vegas. And I remember walking out there, and I got away from the noise, not from social media, but my own head. Because I'm sitting in my house, and I mean, everything's going through my head. I'm replaying what happened, coulda, shoulda, woulda, what am I going to do? A ton of stuff. And when I got out in nature, I think that was my first step to healing, was getting on the trail. And I vividly remember, okay, I need to do something in my life that is going to always be there. You're just coming off of a loss, being married for 20 years. I needed something that, and the trail was it. No matter the weather, the trail was where I was going to be there. So hiking, I think I did a video on my channel where it was the day of her death. It was just, showing I've got a picture called Hiking is My Therapy, my t-shirt.
Yeah. So
that was something that was massive for me. And so back to the physical part of it with the diabetes, I started going on a hike once a week, and would go with her brother-in-law. And I started this in March of 2019. And by August of that year, my A1C was 5.7. I got down to like 183. And I just physically felt good. Now, the problem with that, looking back on it, I was so hardcore focused on the physical part of it, I wasn't addressing what was going on up here. And I can't remember, it was probably maybe late fall of 2019. I cannot specifically point to what happened, but I just realized that I had to work up here. And I then began, that's when I think maybe some of the dreams occurred, going to the therapist. That's when I had to really, I'd start doing yoga. Each morning I would get up and just do some mindful meditation, other things that I talked about. And I was just looking for ways to kind of help get this. I also remember just getting my phone out and talking into it, because I used to podcast before all this happened. And I found, like, even when I do my own stuff here on this on my channel, when I do the little podcast talks, I'm hearing myself talk. And it was just a way to kind of, because I never was a big fan of writing. I kind of suck at that. But I just would take my phone and hit the record button and just go. So for me, I also learned there were no rules. I think I heard this on your show at one point. There's no playbook for grief or death. There is none. I can't go online and get a PDF and go to chapter 7. This is how you deal with this. It doesn't exist. It was really hearing other people's stories. Ironically, those support groups I backed away from, because even in there, this sounds a little strange, but there's judgment. I even made some mistakes myself, where I made the comment that losing a wife is the worst thing ever, and I since learned there is no worst thing. Because I would say it's worse than losing a kid, and that was a big mistake. I got gut checked hard on that one. But then I also realized when you're in the throes of grief, you're going to say things that may not sound logical to somebody who's not in it. So the one thing that I would urge to someone who is not going or actively grieving, and you run across someone who is grieving, just be present for them, be there. I could not stand when someone would ask me, well, how'd she die? It's none of your fucking business. Right. I remember my brother, when he passed away, someone on my Facebook page I went to high school with, hey, how did Katwana pass away? I'm like, it's none of your fucking business. That's just, I think it goes back to how I was raised. My dad was like, not everybody needs to hear your dirty laundry. I think the only exception to that now is if it's Kent Sprong's thong. I'd be willing to take that one. But that's kind of how I was raised. There's some things that, you don't have to share everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And when I see people who die today, and there's this rush by many, how did they die? It's like,
to find out.
Give them their time. If the person wants to say that to you, they'll do it. And then I mentioned the friend who I no longer have because the person wanted to be about themselves. And we were friends since high school. And I moved on because I needed that person to be there for me and what I was going through. And it was about them. The other thing that I learned during the grieving process, this is, matter of fact, you can kind of see it on the wall back there. It's that and sign. Someone, I can't remember, I got it sent a story. And there's something powerful about and. And I use this thing, it's do what feels right for you and it's okay. And I needed to hear that from a friend. And here's the story. So I actively play recreational tennis. And when I was able to get back out and play with our group, I remember out there, I would just mentally check out. Like I would look up at the sky because you talked about, where I was at, and I have all these thoughts like, is she watching me? Is she, I mean, I had all these things and I would just not be there in the moment. And then the guys are like, hey, you ready? And I just, because people always say, stay active, don't be a hermit, stay strong. You got to be, engaged. And I was doing what people said I should do. I think that was part of the physical part. And a friend of mine said, you can go home, if you don't want to be there, you can go. And to me, having somebody say it's okay to go home, that just was, so the next time I was there and I was like, we usually would play like 2 or 3 hours. After 30 minutes, I was done. Like, guys, I'm out. So it's a very small thing, but it's very powerful. And sometimes you just need that permission. I'm not a fan of be strong. I absolutely hated that going through the grieving stage because for me, to be strong is what I was trying to do prior to when she died. I'm doing my job. I'm trying to be a caregiver. I'm trying to do all these things. I'm not really taking care of myself. I'm not making an excuse for the type 2 diabetes. That's on me. But the amount of energy that it takes to be strong, to put on that face, to get out, that's tiring. And it's okay to cry. And it's not a male thing. It's not. I don't buy into that stuff. It was interesting. There was a conversation yesterday about home economics. I mean, we took that in junior high. I took sewing class. I took, cooking class. I mentioned baking banana bread and cookies. Cooking was a big part of growing up, and I love that. I never cried so hard in my life that of 2019, and I hated it. It was painful. I mean, I'm sure you guys have been through it with your loss, with Risky and those who had Nikki that lost. I mean, that feeling you get when it comes on there, that I hate that. But then when you let it go and it's releasing and you're hurting, and then when it's done, it's just kind of like, but I was like, okay, I just got to let it go. So cry. And also ADLs, activity of daily living, take a fucking shower.
Right.
It sounds silly.
That's so important, though.
Yeah. I remember telling someone who lost their loved one, and I said, when's the last time you showered? And they were like, shit. Thank you for telling me that. It sounds very silly, but it took me a couple days. I'm like, okay. And there were just, some people in the shower is a place to cry, because maybe they have other family, and so. I mean, those are things that I learned, and there's no like hierarchy of which loss is worse. I listened to a lot of podcasts. I learned that I was able to be loved by someone. and I take away from that now. There is no time frame. I think we will grieve for the rest of our lives. I'll never get over this. I may, in my day-to-day life, I may, move on, do the stuff that we do here, interact. I'm now with a wonderful lady who is amazing. We move forward, we move on. But, I'm always going to have that memory's up here. And I remember going to a movie a couple months after that happened, and there was a scene in there where the wife died, and I literally broke down in the theater. So I know that I've said this before, I'm a trigger away from something occurring. If I were to see CPR being done in a situation, I'm going to have that flashback. But I've now gone through those things, and life for me is important. My dad kind of taught me that. He was born with a disability. He walks on crutches. And he always said, hey, if I'm on life support, do not pull the fucking... No, wait, let me back up. Don't pull the motherfucking plug. That's what my dad... That's his word. That's his favorite, phrase. But he, because of his disability, he was told he would not be where he's 18 years older than me, so he's 72 or something. He never thought he'd make it to this point.
Wow.
But that's him. Now, for me, I wasn't born with a disability. And I've always said this. The day that I can't wipe my ass, just take me out to the back shed and put me down. Because, that's what I'm used to. So everybody's got a different take on that. But I do love life. I've never once thought about checking out, because I also learned during the grieving stage that there were people who were married for a lot longer, and they just couldn't go on, and they just ended it. I think with my brother committing suicide, there wasn't a stigma. There wasn't a, I'm not going to do that because he did it. But because, some people say, well, if it happens in your family, it's going to run. But I just love life, and I may not be the best person. I'm hard-headed at times. I'm stubborn at times. I admit that, but I love life. And to go back to your point with religion, someone once told me, you know why you love life? Because Jesus is in you. And I'm like,
no, I'm
seriously?
Pretty much me.
I never have gone to anybody and say, why you love life? Because you don't believe in God. That's a thing that just drove me nuts.
Such a crazy thing to say to somebody.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this now. Do you trust your gut when it comes to making decisions, or your feelings, or things that have happened so strange in your life that challenged your thoughts on this reality? Like, do you believe in coincidences, or do you just really trust your gut?
I don't trust my gut.
You don't trust your gut at all?
No, I'd be lying if I did. I mean, that's easy to say, but I don't know, guys. I mean, coincidence? Yeah. I mean, I see things happen, and I'm thinking, okay, this is a little strange. I've had dreams where there've been things like, okay, I feel like I've been here before. I've heard you guys talk about that, and I'm like, okay, there've been some little things. I talked about the keyboard thing. I know that sounds very silly, but it's like, okay, is this a way of her talking to me? So I think about that stuff in my own space, in my own time, but I don't project it out. I'm a big fan of religion, but I'm not a fan of the fan club, if that makes sense. Right. Have it in your house, have it in your home.
Right.
I have no problems with what you want to do. I mean, it goes even beyond that. I mean, no matter who you want to love, no matter who you want to get spicy with, no matter who you want to worship, do that in your home. But it doesn't need to come out, especially with religion. You guys touched upon it the other day in terms of, what it's done to civilizations, so yeah, I mean, I think about these things, I do, but it's not to the point where, I think it goes back to what I said earlier. I'm in the moment right now. I'm in the present.
Right. And
I'm also open to something that Robbie said yesterday. And I remember, I think it was Half God said, because I made the comment, or I agree with what Robbie said, if someone came to me and gave me some proof, something tangible, that there is something beyond that I was not aware of based on what I was told by science, then hell yeah, I'm gonna believe. That doesn't make me a hypocrite. I don't think so. But then, that's where I think God said, you're agnostic. And I know he was kind of giving me a hard time and being fun with it, but I've been through that conversation before. So of course I'm absolutely open to that, but I want to play with my toys. I want to live my life. And as much as I've been a fan of history, even that I got to take a small dose of, because I can't change yesterday. I can't change, what was done in slavery. I can recognize it. I can acknowledge it.
But there's nothing for you back there.
No,
There's something to be taught. But I mean, have you ever had an experience where it just challenged your reality?
Yeah, and I was gonna piggyback your first question real quick. Let me just get that in there. You said something that you might have noticed that your since deceased wife may be leaving you clues, and that you are seeing things that are of our synchronistic moments. Like, it's kind of too good to be true. I just wanted to ask you, what's so bad with believing it?
Nothing.
Saying that you can still be atheist, but would it? And I'm just curious, would it be so bad if it were? And this is hypothetical for you. Is would it be so bad if it was like, oh, I got my truths, but they're just only for me, and there's no way I can present evidence for this, but something within me says it's her. She's reaching out to me.
Yeah, because if it's within me and if it's in my thing, and it brings me some kind of peace, if it allows me to move forward, allows me to be happy, absolutely. Now, do I need to then turn on the microphone and fire up a YouTube video and then say, okay, now this happened to me, this is what you need to do. These are the things you need to do. No, that's where I think the line has to stop, because I'm hearing all kinds of stories of what reality is for folks. I listened to your story. Who am I to come into your space and say, wait a minute, guys, this is bullshit? No. Now, would I have been that person 30 years ago? Probably, because of how my dad and what I was taught. Would my dad have a different conversation with you? Absolutely. It would be a totally different, because he I think is a lot more hardcore in that thinking than I am. But as I've grown up and have questioned things, I'm like, yeah, I have no problems if that helps me get through the day without doing something stupid or crazy or inappropriate. Because trust me, when I was going through that grieving phase, when I was in Vegas, I may have visited some clubs and spent some money.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then when I get home, like, okay, that was stupid. So yeah, and there's I don't think there's any shame in that. It doesn't make me less of a person. Like, oh, then you're not really an atheist. If you says who? And this is where we get into trouble. We start putting these rules and these labels. I mean, I see it with our toys. I mean, we always like to label. Like, I'm not a big fan of genres. I mean, yeah, I don't know how to play. If you asked me to play dubstep, I couldn't do it. But does it sound good to me? So what feels good to me in, whether it's a sign, I mean, if it's something in my dream, I mean, I could go to bed tonight and I could have the same kind of dream that I had that I talked about. Now I could wake up the next day and then what do I choose to do? Do I dwell on that and do I start searching for answers? What is the gain in that for me? I mean, I look at my life right now. I'm very happy. Duncan's back here. He's chilling out, hanging out. I got a wonderful woman here in the house hanging out. Life is good and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So if this were to happen, then that's something that I have to figure out myself.
Right. I always get excited to, like when you said you had a dream and then the next day you had a continuation of a dream. That to me well, you already know from our old podcast stuff. Yeah. That's wild though, Rabbit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's wild.
That's something they don't teach you. Like that's something they don't teach you to at least look at
or explore. Because to me, an atheist is much like a scientist. I just need some sort of hard, tangible truth as to what you're telling me,
And people always get it misconstrued. and I always hear this when it goes towards atheists. Yeah, but what if you die and you find out that it was like everything you thought was just, it was all wrong? What happens then? And I would always kind of answer for the atheists. Then they deal with it when that time comes, but don't try to strip someone of their physical beliefs while they're harboring a physical body.
Right.
Uncle Chrome says, but do you have a hydrocinth, Rabbit?
Yeah, do you have a hydrocinth?
Right here.
Oh, yeah,
he
there
does.
you go.
But
Desktop.
it all goes back to mind your own goddamn business and stick to what you know.
And let people move about this place the way
Freely.
they want to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never say to someone who's religious, well, what if we get there and there's nothing? I mean, we're not going to be able to figure that out. I remember having the conversation when I was a kid, because, we would get into conversations on religion on the bus. This is something, because, I don't know how it came up, but we're like, oh, Kwesi's an atheist, so let's go talk to him. And I would say, well, where does God come from? And, they're like, well, it's just it. So it's like, I think if we want to have that conversation, I think both sides could get really deep into different things. And it almost is kind of like, the kid is always asking why, and then you get the answer, well, why? It's like, how many different levels of why do we need to go?
Right.
I think it always has also been brought up in other circles, could either side or whatever sides handle the truth? So let's say on my end, there is something tangible that, yes, there is a God, there is an afterlife, then would people who have been brought up be able to handle that? And on the flip side, could somebody handle that? Yeah, I mean, to each their own. I mean, if that's what, the back to your point about the dreams, for me, it happened. And I was more concerned about just being mentally safe, if that makes sense. I mentioned the PTSD and was this going to happen again? And I have just since learned that to let the brain have the dream, have the experience.
Right.
If anything, since we're on this topic, I've been a little more miffed. I haven't had a dream about my brother in a long time. And there were part of me that would question, well, were we as tight as we thought? Because I would hear people say, they will come back and talk. I mean, I'm thinking about a person I specifically would have a conversation about, they would have a dream about their loved one. They have conversations. And then I start to feel like, well, wait a minute, is there something wrong with me? And that's kind of where I started to kind of get a little, this doesn't make any sense. So I remember I had a dream with my brother one time, and I remember asking him, why did he kill himself? And he wouldn't talk. He wouldn't say anything. And then I would tell this story to other people, and I would get all kinds of different answers. And I think for me, the fact that I got so many different answers, like, okay, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I got to figure it out for myself. And I've chosen that. I've had the memories with him. I look at you two, and there's something that I'm glad that I have found you. So to Luke, thank you for introducing me to both of you. And when I watch your old podcast, I look at my brother. I feel like I'm seeing my brother and I. I mean, the two of you, the chemistry you have, that was he and I. I mean, it was just, we weren't twins, but, and I'm not saying we finished each other's sentence, but there was just that brotherly connection. I have a younger sister, but it was just my brother and I at the time. And growing up, we needed each other to get through. I mentioned the whole discipline thing. So the fact that I don't have those dreams as much, it's been 25 years since he's died. And there are moments where I think, is there something wrong? Am I not being open? Because I'm listening to what people tell me. And, do I want to go into some type of a state of whatever it is and visit this? And then I go back to what I said earlier. What is that going to do? Is that, going to bring him back? It's been 25 years. If he's on the other side, why hasn't he, said anything to me? Is there some barrier that he can't do it? I mean, these are the things that I hear from people that, you just have to believe. You just have to, open yourself. It's like, okay, it's not happened. So why am I chasing this? Or am I chasing it, if that makes any sense?
Right.
Yep. It's those whispers.
And sometimes you don't even, and that's the thing, is other people just wanting you to, or they're just wanting to help you process and move on. But what they fail to recognize is, I think MARELYN said in that one poem, You just got to be there. You don't have to say anything.
Yeah, that was from Steve. He was quoting, I forget what he was quoting. He used it in the video in the Team Jam.
Right.
Yeah.
I think people they find other ways to try to help.
And just be there in silence.
And that's all you need sometimes. And I think people they have this angst about them to say something. Right. Whether they truly believe in it or not, they just feel like the other person needs to say
they need to hear this.
Yeah.
Like, I believe in tomorrow. You can ask me why, and I think you would say it too. You believe in tomorrow. I believe in the actions of today. I believe that one day I'll have me a steam pipe, because that steam dream, baby. You know, like, belief is a thing in which can carry us a long way and not leave us in despair. So belief is a powerful thing.
Right.
Belief is needed in no matter what. It just depends on the actual eye of the beholder. Are you trying to gain something over someone, which is most of the time? And are you trying to have this history that was taught to you, the power of belief in history? And 99.9% of people want to hold on to the power of belief from the past, right? And I think that's the most detrimental thing to the mind ever. In my mind, you kind of have to walk this life with a forgive and forget mentality. Now, I don't know anyone that knows anyone that was a slave. Was it real? Yeah. Was I alive back then? No. Do I believe it happened? Yes. I could also choose to believe it never happened because it didn't happen to me. So the power of belief is so varied and
subjective.
It's so subjective as to what it actually means.
Well, and that, because if it means that to you, it means something else to someone completely.
Right.
Wasn't it Kanye West that said during slavery, before prohibition, before the what do they call it when abolished? Before it was abolished,
Jim Crow, or
Kanye, in his mind, this is just his mind, he thought slavery was something that you did because you wanted to be a slave.
Oh, you chose to.
You chose it because there's my belief is, if I gotta be someone's slave, then I much rather die. So you will kill me before I become your slave and subject myself to that type of punishment.
Or that type of life.
Okay, so now in Kanye West's mind, how much of that could be believed?
Right.
Like, was it a free will thing? What a part of somebody that says, yeah, I'm going to render myself and do this because I love breathing that much, that I'm willing to get whipped, I'm willing to watch my family get hung, my wife be raped, people being burned on a stake. What part of about a human's belief system has him go on through that?
To live through that. Because I guess the power of choice is real too. Like, clearly one would want to die versus live a life of hell, right?
And that's what he posed, right? So was slavery something that you chose to do, or was it something you just didn't choose to do?
Right.
But when he said that, people up in arms because they did not like the way his belief system was.
He didn't have the context in which they wanted.
Right.
Which it goes back to what Wabbit was saying, like, his brother passed away. Oh, how did he die? How did he die? Like,
it's none of your business.
I don't care to know anything about the man's brother.
Right.
I don't care to know what relationship you've had with him. How did he die?
But it's so rude too, because they don't even care to ask, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Right. That's not the first thing that comes out of someone. And that goes like the power of belief to me is so finicky, and it's just so, it could be such a dangerous thing, you know? And we live in this world where belief is everything, and it's caused so much fucking devastation on this planet.
I think it's okay to have belief. I mean, you have to. I mean,
I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying you shouldn't have it, but I'm just saying it in the wrong mind, in the wrong hands, with the wrong teaching, I mean, look at these wars. Go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off.
No, I was going to say it's then what you do when you start interacting with another human being or multiple. That's where, lines are crossed, and unfortunately we live in a time where we're now exposed to 8 billion heads of lettuce, as I like to say. You can pretty much hear every noise on the planet. And that's kind of what I went back to when I was a kid growing up. We didn't have that. We just were what we heard on the block. And I miss those times. And now I got to listen to everybody's belief. And I think that goes to the point. Sometimes it's good just to keep things to yourself.
Right.
And the thing with slavery, I mean, one thing that always irritated me with that is, we're told to not talk about it. That was in the past. But you tell somebody to not talk about Pearl Harbor or 9/11. Wait a minute.
The Holocaust, shit.
It depends on, the context. And there is, I don't want to try and get all historical here, but there is a trauma, in my opinion, in my belief, that has been passed down through slavery.
Absolutely.
There have been studies, there have been things that have been done. There's documentaries have been done that talked about that. So there's a real oppression that goes on, and people love to say, "Oh, slavery is it's over." We can have a conversation about that. So it's when we start, trying to put our beliefs on other people, and I think that goes back to the point where I always, just walk away from the conversation of religion, because I feel through my 50-some years that people see there's something wrong with me because I don't believe. And even if there's nothing wrong with me, it's as if, like what I said earlier, like, well, he's in you. You're just not open to it. And it's the fact that you're seeing something different than what you were raised. And this, for whether reasons are, you feel like you need to fix it. You feel like there's something wrong. And I don't have time for that. I mean, I enjoy the conversation here, and I think it depends on the, who I'm having the conversation with.
Right.
But in my day-to-day life, outside of this podcast, I'm going to go do dinner. I'm going to go mess around on my iPad. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to, we got a snowstorm coming. So there are things that I'm going to be doing. I've got to be in the present, because here's the thing that I also learned from that event in December. And this is an important thing that has changed me forever. And I may not live it. You may interact with me on social media. You may see me in a video and you're like, what the fuck is Wabbit saying? But here's the thing that that has changed. Life can end at any moment. That is one thing that I didn't think about growing up. So I used to drive like an idiot. I had a 1990 VW Scirocco, or a Corrado. It was a red V6. And I got 40 speeding tickets over a period of time. I went to defensive driver school. I actually got a speeding ticket going to defensive driver school.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I was living in Ohio, going to Indiana, because before I moved there, and the cop, he saw the book in the front seat. He goes, I'm going to love this. I got chased. I got, followed and got a ticket. Like, the guy gave me an average of 91.6. My point is, just like everybody else, I'm in my 20s. I'm being an idiot. And I didn't have anything. I wouldn't say that I thought I was immortal. Not at all. But when that moment happened, when she was gone, I just realized that any particular moment, it could be over with. And because of my belief that this is a one-way ticket, or one trip, whatever you want to call it, that's all I have, that I got to do everything I can to enjoy this moment. And that's why I say fun is important for me. That's why I don't chase perfection. I'm not a big believer in rules. Yeah, there are rules over here that I got to do. There are rules in the adulting. I got to pay my taxes. Those things I get. When it comes to this stuff, because I've said this before in a talk that I did, there are three things in my life that I have to deal with: a 9-to-5 job, adulting, and then I have my hobby space. And in my 9-to-5 and adulting, there's challenges, there's deadlines, there's rules, in some of those you need to be perfect. And that goes to my point, what I said earlier, that requires a level of just being strong at a certain point. I'm a human being. And that can be tiring on you. I'm not saying this work that I'm doing is physical in nature. Not at all. It's not what I'm saying. but I need to have something, and that's why this music space is important to me. I am not a professional. I don't know how. I couldn't jam with you guys if you said, "Hey, we're going to be in A minor." I'm like, "What the fuck am I doing? Let me get my little cheat thing." But I'm having fun, and that night taught me that. It didn't teach me right away, but I now know that I have the opportunity to live my life. I have the opportunity to have fun. Am I doing everything perfectly? No. Do I need to lose some weight? Do I need to get some things back in check? Absolutely. And I am working on those things. I know that the trail is out there. I've done things like, what's the with the dieting thing, intermittent fasting. I mean, I do all these things to get there. I can do that. But if I don't have this thing right up here, then none of that matters. So that's what really is paramount for me. Is I have made a conscious decision now, because I don't feel like I was making a conscious decision before that. I was just going through the motions. That's what it was. And this is what when I have the opportunity, I kid you not, when I have the opportunity to wake up in the morning, the first thing that goes through my mind is like, damn, I made it through a night. Not because I feel like I got some health condition going on, because I don't know. I listened to Lamar's story. I don't want to spoil anything on that, but I'll just say I listened to your story. And the fact that that could happen to any one of us at any moment in time. And when I see these little things that go on in this space, whether they're little beefs, whether they're arguments about Dallas or Doll, whether they're this or that, when I see these, what I call this tired old well conversation that we have, I complain, I rant, I do it. But the fact that I get to do it, the fact that I'm alive and having fun, that is the message that I'm trying to send across. That's what I'm trying to do in my mess around. I use this term called hammer, having a mess around. It's not because I'm trying to be difficult. It's not because I'm pushing back at, because here's the surprising thing. I have nothing but respect for those who know how to play an instrument, for those who have that ability. I mentioned that earlier, the people who can draw naturally. I have nothing, because that to me is amazing. I will always be a consumer of music. When I listen to your Popcorn Nights, when I listen to Hardware Jams, I feel like I'm a kid again with the boombox listening to Herbie Hancock, because that's what I grew up as. So I'm glad to be a part of all of this. And then my message to anyone who listens to what I do is what I say at the ending of my videos. Stay safe. Stay aware. Keep fighting. Because whether it is those we have lost or we know we're going to lose some as we get older, people are checking out. And I just want to have fun, and that's why I'm in the present. That's why I don't have conversations about religion on the regular basis. That's why I don't get too much into politics of late, because I was big into that. And when I look back upon that time, what do I have to show for it?
Nothing.
Not a damn thing. Smoking.
And you know what's funny, Wabbit, is we have a strict rule, and a lot of people don't understand why we have the strict rule and why we then break the rule. So let me explain to you, for those of you that don't know. When we have a conversation with someone like Rabbit, Luke, Simon, whoever else we had on so far, right? We have this Panda. We have this conversation first, and it's always a conversation of, who are you? What was your past like?
What are your beliefs?
What are your, at the end of the conversation, we go into a little bit of politics and we go into a little bit of religion. And you know what's funny is it wasn't the first thing said in the conversation. It's normally the last thing said. And at the end of the conversation, everyone knows where they stand, and it doesn't change how you feel about a person. This is the only time we would allow conversation with religion and politics. Once we have fully spoken with an individual, we've grasped all the things we have in common. And then you start to find out people lower their barriers about their beliefs and about what they think is wrong or right. And when it's all said and done at the end of the day, once everybody knows where everyone stands, after one conversation, we're still friends.
And we're much more alike than we knew.
We're much more alike than we knew, and we still love each other, and we are going to be in each other's lives forever. That is the main purpose on why we do this, is to break the fucking stigma. We don't care what you believe in. We don't care who you want for fucking president. It means nothing in the long run. And Wabbit just said it. Where is it going to get you? What trophy is it going to fucking bring you that you can put on your mantle and go, see, that's for all the years of talking this shit. You know, at the end of the day, there's only one thing that remains. The conversation and knowing the individual and having this life experience. And right now that narrative is being painted in a weird way. Mm-hmm. You know, it's okay to talk about the things you love, the things you believe in, and what you believe in. You just have to make sure that's not the first thing on the fucking menu. You know?
And respect the individual at the end of the day.
And just respect the individual.
But I think that's why we can't readily have these conversations, because not everybody has the same thought process.
Right.
Some people egos would just not accept anyone else's belief system or way of thought
or way of life
Yeah.
You know, I want to be in this hateful, resentful, how dare you are not like me and my beliefs. How dare you? Mm-hmm. You know?
I have a question from the chat. Uncle Chrome wants to know if there's any retirement plans.
Yeah, I got to keep working.
Until you're 78.
So that would be no.
Yeah, no. There was something that was, I can't remember if it was you guys or was talking about bucket list. Might have been you guys that said that.
Yeah, it was us. It was Sam.
Mm-hmm. And for me, this is what I love about this, is because when I listen to those that you talk to, it's like, damn, we are more alike than we are different.
Exactly. Yep.
You know, whether it's Sam, whether it's Robbie talking the other day, Kent. Mm-hmm. I love Kent. I mean, the humor, because I hear him talking about people don't get me all the time. And like, I would love to be in the pub and just listen and laugh, because that's having fun. But in terms of retirement, no, there is no plans. I mean, would I like to travel? Would I like to do things? I think somebody asked me once, you know, or this is always asked, you know, if it were to end tomorrow, would you be happy? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I lived. I was loved. I've been loved again. Mm-hmm. And this is my retirement, this community. Mm-hmm. That may sound silly, but I have found in this music community something I haven't found in any other place. Yes, you're going to have some bad apples. Yes, you're going to have that. But there is a different kind of love in this space that I haven't found, even in hiking, even in other hobbies that I've done. You would think hiking, everybody would be, you know, on the same page. No, there are people who are trying to chase some medal at the top of the summit that isn't there. And because you can't keep up, because I'm the caboose. I go slow. I'm there in the moment. I'm enjoying the scenery. And I hate going on group hikes. I'll never do it again. But there's something about this music space that this is my retirement. This is what I want to continue to do. And when that job is done, I want to be able to continue to do this as long as I can. And, you know, but I can't worry about tomorrow. I think I said earlier, it's that 80-10-10 rule. If I spend all my time thinking about tomorrow, today's gone. Mm-hmm. Right. And I got to get to living. I got to, as my dad would say, get to stepping. I got to keep moving. Mm-hmm. And that's what I got to do. So, no, I mean, outside of, you know, I do want to go to the UK. My partner was born in the UK. That is on our, excuse me, we're trying to get there in May. So that will happen. We went to Australia last year. That was amazing. Went to France. I would love to go to someplace in Africa. Don't know where. Ghana would kind of that'd be kind of cool to be around some other Kwesys. I did meet one other person in real life, and that was amazing. Actually had a goatee and shaved head because I used to shave my head at some point, and he knew how to say my name, and that was amazing. But I think the other thing too, there's a part of me that just enjoys being home. So just last night we were sitting in the living room and we hear this just down the street because we live a block away from Main Street, and this, you could tell that someone was running. I mean, and next thing you hear the sirens, and then come to find out later that this was like a 19-year-old kid who was running from the cops, crashed, and I don't know what the injuries were, but we had this saying when we lived in Vegas, nothing good happens after midnight. Now apparently it's after 8 o'clock, but
Yeah.
I have this saying that I hope that I'm not around when Krazy walks in. Not me literally, but I'm not going to get into all the other things, but nobody has any answers. I mean, it's like we're kicking the can down the road. We're going to turn on the news tomorrow and there's going to be another tragedy. There's going to be another this. And I don't have the answers, because it's another thing that I got tired of having conversations with people about this is, well, Kwesi, then what's your answer? Because I always push back and I would get pissed off, and I come with these, I grew up in a very progressive, and that's to put it lightly. So we were very, very, very far left, and I would always question things. That's what my dad taught me to do, question things. And, I had this history, football that I'm armed with, and I'm coming out with people and like, well, what are your answers? Like, well, you don't want to know the answers. You can't handle the truth and all that. And it's like, you know what? I'm tired of that. Just like I said earlier, what do I have to show for these conversations? I feel like I made a difference in the hospital. I impacted lives. We helped save lives. We didn't save everybody. Here's a funny story. Back in Indiana, I was taking care of this lady who's pregnant and go to discharge her. And she goes, I really like your name. I'm going to name my kid after you. I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, there's a Kwesi Smith running around someplace who knows if he's still alive.
Wow.
I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
So I feel like I made a difference in that part of my life. And I think for me, I feel like I've done what I've had to do. And I can no longer have the conversations of trying to change anything. It's almost as if I've resigned. I know that some people don't like that, but it's tiring. My dad was in city council for 17 years. Never thought he would do that. He still loves it. But when I listen to him and I hear the conversations that he's had with citizens, it's like, I could never do. He always say, "Hey, you should run for city council." I'm like, I wouldn't last a day. I get fired because I would just, when I would say something, get the fuck out. You can't do that. And you got to have patience. I think that goes back to my time. And we also worked in the ER. We were our own security. This was back in the 90s, and you guys have talked about your, dealings in the medical space and all that, and you know how that is, and your dealings with law enforcement. So you understand, back then, it was a different time, and I no longer practice now because I couldn't handle the politics of nursing, and so many things have changed, and I just can't change anything anymore. And that's a part, I think, that what really frustrates me about this human experience is, for me personally, I don't think it's rocket science to change the problems that we have. I think it was Robbie yesterday that said about the Vatican. And the amount of money about something, if you took that money and you could, take care of, when it's amazing to me when we have these kind of talks and there are people who will push back at like, we're the problems. Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science.
Right.
This is not. And I think that is the thing that frustrates me about this human experience. When I said earlier that I'm kind of tired of dealing with history, because especially when it comes to wars, and when I see a documentary, when I see a movie, and I just see that people have died because someone has made a decision to send that person to war for their gain, and that person's life is gone.
And it's like, for what? What came of it? Like, if you look at Iraq and all that, like Afghanistan, all those people who are dying, and all the people who died from the U.S. there, Like what? Why? Why would we put our warriors in harm's way to gain nothing?
Yeah.
You know, why kill so many people over a religious belief and you gain nothing?
I always said that if a war was worth fighting, then the people that started send their own blood on the front lines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Robbie wants to know, whereabouts in the UK do you guys plan on visiting?
I think London is kind of going to be the obvious. She was born in, I want to say Worthing, so south in the UK. I've always wanted to see Wimbledon, just see the stadium.
Yeah.
My answers are going to be the typical tourist.
The touristy,
stuff.
Well, as well as they should be, because we don't get a chance to see those. You know?
Yeah. So she's going to be my guide. She has, family that's kind of in the area. Her folks still live in France. They're trying to move back to the UK. So it's to be determined, but probably the usual suspects. I would like to see Stonehenge, and we plan to go back, not just be the first time.
Yeah. Robbie says, please let him know when and where you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely keep everybody posted. So,
go ahead.
I want to say jumping track because it seems like
That's what I was going to do.
The music came after all of this. Okay, so Wabbit loves music now.
So I'm probably stepped into the house to turn on. We have cheeseburger soup on the stoves. So the music came up. So that was a question when the music came up. So it was after.
We're going to find out.
Oh, that. Okay. Got it.
So music came after, right? So what sparked Wabbit getting into music, and what was the first box?
Yeah, so it was actually a DJ controller. And that's why I love watching Panda, or anybody that uses DJ control. So how that started. So again, during the grieving stage, one of the things I also did is I started going back into my past, reminiscing, finding things that I loved. And, as a kid, that's where I started to go back to. Like, we used to race remote control cars. So I think I went out and bought one and played around with that. And one of the things I remember when I was going to clubs in Chicago was just being fascinated by what a DJ could do up on stage. Like, holy crap. Because everything I listened to on the radio was just like, you play one song and they cut to the next one. That was it. There was no transitioning that I remember. So when I hear this, I'm like, it was blowing my mind. I'm out there moving and everything. I'm not going to do anything now because I might throw a hip out. But, that was wild.
Prove it.
Can we make this private? Blur this out. So I remember that. But then again, remember what I said earlier? I was just kind of going about. I didn't really think anything of it. I was focused on, being a nurse, and I was, going to get married and all that stuff. So I just kind of let that go, and I always would listen. So fast forward to March of 2019, I remembered that. I'm like, okay, is this something I could do? So I get on YouTube, and there are tutorials how to teach yourself how to DJ. So I went out and bought a Hercules 500, I think. And I learned the basics. I just learned how to beat match, and I learned how to, do basic transition. And then I upgraded. I still have it over here, is the Roland DJ 707M. Matter of fact, I did a video on my channel when I got to 707 subscribers, and I put 2 iPads to it and mixed it. It was cheesy, but it was fun. And that's where that started. I also then went out and bought 2 guitars because I messed around with as a kid. I got a picture of myself and my big old glasses and a big fro. But again, remember, I struggle with that. But I thought, well, maybe I can try and pick this up. I still have the guitars sitting over here, but that's a whole nother story. And then I got a little piano, and I practiced how to, like, happy birthday, and I like, for my friends on Facebook, I would do a little thing on that. And then the synthesizer stuff, and I use the word synthesizer in quotes, it kind of came with GarageBand of all places, because when I was podcasting, I was podcasting before she died. I had a couple shows and messing around, and I would use GarageBand to edit all that. And as I'm messing around with this music stuff, I think I came across a video where somebody was using the drum computer thing in GarageBand, and I pulled it up, and I remember just messing around with one of the presets. I'm like, ooh, this is kind of cool. And from there, it just kind of took off. You know, I remember downloading a couple applications, playing around with things. And when I found the concept of a sequencer, I think that kind of gave me some, so I can actually program in a beat and then use my ears. I feel like I have my own sense of rhythm. You know, I think it comes from, I go back to the whole slavery thing. I think that is passed down through generation. That's just my personal opinion. So you use all this combination, I'm like, okay. And I'm watching other people. I'm watching people who, like yourself, people who I call professional musicians. You can play an instrument. And I'm like, that's amazing, you know, so what can I do? So that kind of led to, in terms of the first real box that I got, probably the TR-8S would be my first real box that I got. And it was just more of a lot of my early purchases were lust. They looked cool. They sounded good. But what I did not know is when I got them in the mail, the talent wasn't in the box.
He's like, damn it, they forgot to put that in there.
Yeah. That's part of the whole marketing scheme.
I'm like, what? Where's Bo or where's so-and-so? It's like, I got to read the manual. As Luke would say, you got to read the fucking manual.
Right.
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you. I had bought a lot of things, or the MC707 came next. I remember taking a Rolling Cloud Academy course. Little did I know that was Unit E. I mean, I knew Unit E, but I had no idea that you guys ran with him. And when I came into this space, I'm like, holy shit, that's awesome.
I was going to say it was probably Unit E who was teaching it.
Yeah, he actually taught both of the courses. And was just amazing. Now, be honest with you, I didn't put in the time. Again, where I was at that time, you know, I was not being serious with it enough. So those were some of my early boxes. I had the MC101, the TR-6S. I've since sold those because of the two Beast that I now have. Then I think the first synthesizer that I bought hardware was the Micro Freak, just because affordable. As I was watching others that have what I call the big boy sense, you know, the things that you need a forklift to lift. I just felt that, one, they were out of my price range, and two, I'm not a piano player, and I just didn't feel that I needed to do that. So the Micro Freak was a good first purchase, and then since then it's been a lot of things. I really try and get things that have a sequencer base because that's my strong suit. And then the iPad just kind of spun off of messing with GarageBand, and I've gotten a ton of things on there. So that's where the music thing came from. It was born out of finding something that I could, I don't want to use the word control in a bad way, but it was something that I could, it would be there for me, kind of like the hiking trail. You know, as long as I got electricity, you know, I can power these things on, and I can do that. So to echo what I said, and I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but I know that what I do is not anything, and I'm not trying to put myself down, because I remember I used to say this and people would say, hey, don't beat yourself up. I'm not. I'm being a realist here. I am in a space where there are people who have spent their entire lives in this music space. I hear the stories of people who played drums since they were a kid, and they've been doing it for 30, 40 years. And I have nothing but the utmost respect. And the one thing that I love about this show is I get to hear you talk to people, and it gives me a greater level of respect in terms of, okay, this is a human being I'm dealing with here. So I'm just honored to be able to mess around and have some fun. I have no interest in making any songs. I tried to do that once, and it got frustrating. I took a course on Udemy or something, how to make electronic music in Ableton. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. And I get the itch, and I hated it. It was frustrating for me. It was, and it wasn't because it was in the computer. It had nothing to do with it. It was just the time, I just want to turn something on. I want to put a couple of things in. If it can, here's my process. I'll put like a 4 on the floor, I'll put in your typical, kick and snare, whatever hat, and then I'll just kind of move stuff around and I'll just kind of listen. And I use my ears. That's my music theory. What do I hear? What do I feel? And then I did take a course. There's a gentleman by the name of Circo. He has a YouTube channel. I took a course from him on live performing. And that to me was a very helpful course because it talked about improvisation. And that is something that I love. It goes back to my days in the ER. I never knew what was going to walk in the door. And I love the fact that you can just get a sound source, you can get a percussion thing, and just have fun. Now, am I sounding like a lot of the same stuff? Probably. That's okay. I've also gotten into granular. I love that. Now, a year or two ago, I would have hated that. So that's the other thing I love about this whole thing is this has opened me up to different types of music that I really enjoy. I still am not a country music fan. I will never, unless there's tequila involved in a lot of it, I will never be a country music fan. But electronica is my love. Techno, house. I miss going to the club. We used to. My aunt, took me to my first techno club in Atlanta. We didn't get home till 7 a.m.
Wow.
And that has been my favorite genre of all time. I think the one thing that I want to do more of is something with hip hop and sampling. I tried the Akai MPC and I didn't put enough time into it and sold it and learned it. But that's my long answer how I got into this space. I just mess around and have fun.
Unit E says, get Koala installed on your iPad and connect the iPad to your 707. It's the perfect sampler companion for the 707.
Yep, I've got Koala on there, but I will definitely put that with the 707 for thinking. And Unity, now that you're here, I've said this at the time, but what an amazing person. I'm so happy that you guys know him and the knowledge that he brings, the patience that he had in that course. Just an amazing cat. So salute. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, he's definitely underrated. Like I really encourage people, like, if you're really wanting to learn some stuff, he is a rolling whiz and can get you going without compromising who you want to be. And like to second on what you were saying, Wabbit, is like when I listen to hardware jams, I'm not so wanting to perform on hardware jams much anymore. Not because I dislike hardware jams, but because hardware jams is a box groove type community where they do a lot of just people doing their box jams and their jams. My brother and I are songwriters. We're not jammers, And so I was like, I kind of feel like, and this is me personally, I'm taken away from what hardware jams is. It's a jam community. I know they want you to get off your ass and do things, but I feel like, this really isn't it was fun. It helped me get off my ass, but what it really did for me, it helped me find what I wanted to do. I'm not a jam boxer. I know that. And I like hardware jams and they're jam boxers, but I'm like, we create songs. And we're not going to be as busy behind our instruments like a lot of hardware jammers. They're just jamming and having fun and turning knobs and pushing buttons. And I realized, what? This is not my style. This is not me. I'm a song creator. And so in my mind, I kind of feel like I'm taken away from something, or, it's for someone other than me now. I need to move on and do what I really want to do. But then Hardware Jams had another jam that popped up, and it was for like Lord of the Rings for Monday, right? And I'm like, well, I could do that. I'm not going to jam it. We're not going to jam it. We're going to write a song or a score for it. And that's when I was like, you know what? There's people that have VSTs and who are just songwriters and content creators and movie creators, and like we should do like a popcorn night where it's something that's kind of up our alley, and it worked well. So finding your way in music isn't going to be for a whole lot of people. And you're going to come into things where you're like, I'm not chasing this. I'm not fucking doing this. This ain't me. This is not what's making me happy. And I struggle just like you. Yeah, I may know how to play certain things in certain keys, but I was still in the mindset of, what the fuck am I going to do? What am I going to do?
I think because we were always in the band, and we were under such, like, our guitarist was a great singer-songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
And we just learned how to write songs. And we became really good at it.
Right.
Not to say that we can't jam and we don't like to jam, but I think our heart and passions is just writing songs.
Right. Yeah. And so when I look at hardware jams, it's literally jammers who have their box and they go to town, and they're fucking brilliant when they do it. It's in the name. So I was I was just like, yeah, that's not me. It was a great place to get an impression and get off my ass. But I started to realize, like, I'm not going to submit to many more of these because I'm not a jammer, So with that being said, music is a very complex thing, but you can really make it simple. And it's easy in most times. Get in there and make some noise. If you like the noise, job accomplished, Let's talk about how we support music, because I call you the 5-star general. Okay, a lot of people don't know why, but I could tell you for my personal experience who a lot of the roamers are who I see a lot, right? That's in the family. I'm not going to speak about anyone else's family. It's not my place. I didn't start those organizations. I'm just speaking on S.O.R. I could literally get on Discord, get a hold of Tracker Jack and go, come watch this with me. Within minutes, Tracker Jack is there. I could go and say, Wabbit, look at this, or Wabbit can post something, or Synchrotron could post something, or Steve can post something, my wife, Lamar. And we're on it. Where you would see Recon, you would see all of the people who probably what we're watching is not our vibe. It's not what we're into. But we're all there and we're supporting. And we know it's not a one-way street. And we know if we're going to grow and if we're going to make this community a success, we band together, we stick together, and we enjoy the content together, right?
Yeah.
So here's my question to you, Rabbit. Real 1000 AM was a YouTube channel my wife discovered a few months ago. And they left the most bizarre comment in Discord. And I even text you on your phone. I said, Wabbit, go look at this comment before I get any further into this and how I should perceive it. Go put the 5-star general eyes on this. And without me giving you any context, you came back and was like, immediately, oh, well, that's strike one and someone has a fucking attitude. Right when I know when there's an issue like that and there are certain people who refuse to support other people and who look for excuses on not to support other people, it's the same thing Luke warned us about. Be careful who you put in your Discord. But always, in my mind, we always made that message clear. What went through your mind and what goes through your mind with that whole Real 1000 AM thing? And then the second question is, when you go and view someone's content, are you there for a few minutes and bounce to go watch something else, or do you try to invest more time?
Yeah, so question number one, I look at what this space does, what do you want to call it, the Continental, the Monkey Island, the family, and I see a genuine love and willingness to accept others. And sometimes when you open the doors. There are people out there who are hustling. There are people out there who have a different plan and a vision. It might have been Lamar who said this in an old episode or something like, hey, I'm going to accept you, we're cool. But then the moment you step in correctly, then we have a problem. I'm paraphrasing. And maybe that's kind of how I was, brought up as well too, is, you want to give people that chance. But you also have to have some boundaries and shut things down. And I think what really irritated me, and I can't remember the exact thing that was said at the end, but it was something like chill or something of that point. And
chill,
like, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. Excuse me? Yeah. Like, see, this is my dad coming out. I mean, there are things my dad taught me. It's like, if you step wrong, we have a problem. And that was a misstep. And the way that they were found, the way that we came in there and was showing genuine support, hey, I think everybody's in agreement. There was talent there. And it started before that comment where you could start to tell, wait a minute, these guys are chasing the algorithm. They're chasing the number. And let's be honest, there's nothing wrong with that. I understand it. That's what there are people in this game for. That's something that I've had to learn. I'm not a fan of it. I could care less about the numbers. I'm not here for that because that over there is keeping the lights on. That's my reality. But I can't hate somebody for trying to do that. The problem is when you are invited into somebody's home, this goes back to my dad. You're kind of under my roof here. Even though we're accepting you, this doesn't mean you can kind of roll over us. And there was just kind of a vibe that was kind of building up to that. And I think you were, kind of talking to that in some other points. And yeah, they crossed the line and they got to, get to step and they got to get to moving and do them. And this may sound very strange coming from someone with my lack of beliefs, but I'm a big fan of karma.
Right.
And it may not get you today. It may not get you tomorrow.
Oh, but it's coming.
But it's coming for you. And that ship has sailed and we continue to move forward.
Right.
Now, in terms of your second question, in terms of what do I do, it varies. If I'm vibing with what someone's doing and I have nothing going on my plate, then I'm going to hang around, check this out, because a couple things can happen. One, I may learn something. I may see a piece of gear being used in a way that I didn't think about. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Because right now I've got a couple things that are in the drawers that I'm just kind of shelving. I'm really into this less is more thing, even though you may look around this space and you're like, well, you got a lot of stuff there. Well, have you seen other channels? But I digress.
Yeah, Krazy's big into that. Less is more.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I've learned because I didn't have that thought when I got in this space 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, hey, I got to buy this. I got to buy that. That's cool. I was in that. But now I'm now understanding that. And I'm glad you mentioned Crest because I thought about this before coming on. There's some people that I don't know Crest personally. I only hear through what you guys have said. And when I listen to him speak, it's almost, again, it's like I've got a brother there that has been lost because it's like, just do fucking you. And that is my thing. Do you. And when I hear that, I'm like, yeah. So Crest, if you're listening or if you're going to listen, thank you, because I need to hear those reminders. And when you post your Studio B pictures or Studio N, or first of all, I feel like I owe you an apology because I made a bit of a joke with the coffee thing. And when you explain what was going on, there's a part of me that, and I wasn't doing it in a joking way towards you. So if it came across that way, I apologize for that. Same thing with, I think it was James Duncan. I made an offhanded comment about the poly and synth, like I can't do this. So there are times I open my mouth because, again, I think I told you guys a story. Maybe it was, I can't remember, it was like when I was working in the ER or I was working as a supervisor, we had someone, a family member that died and we had to do all the paperwork. And I'm like, I don't want to bore you to death. I'm like, that was a fucking idiot move to say. You can't. Yeah. I was like, because again, I had that. My humor is inappropriate at times because of my time working in the emergency room. We were walking HR violations. So I know that there are times I will say things that are not correct.
That's part of that PTSD we all suffer from working in the emergency field, though.
But to me, I just wanted to say to Crest, I apologize if that comment was perceived in that way, because it was not. Same thing with Scruffy Fox. I made the comment today about behind the curtain. I'm not. I'm a very caring person. That's in my DNA. I can't get rid of that. Right. And sometimes it's to a fault, because when I have conversations, when I say things, when I get passionate about it, it's almost as if, wait a minute. So anyway, so Crest, thank you. I know I kind of got off track there, but
I got it real quick though, Wabbit. So
yeah.
Go ahead. So I know your character, so go ahead.
So in terms of listening, I may learn something from them, and that's why I will stick around. Okay, what are they doing, or how are they using this? I don't like to pixel people. They got this, but it's like, okay, I'll start to pay attention to. I can understand a little bit more what they're doing. So there's that aspect. There's also the what's the word I want to use? I'm a fan of listening to music, so I'll just like vibe, because there's one thing I really try and not do too much. I've caught myself a couple times when I listen to things like, okay, I can, 8 beats, this transition, like, no, I'm getting too technical. I just want to enjoy the vibe. So sometimes I just want to listen, because to me, there's something about music that does something to me that nothing else does. I can close my eyes. There's a term called frisson. I'm a massive fan of that. You literally can get goosebumps and nothing else does that. I mean, if I eat food that I love, if I watch a movie, but there's something like I was messing around on a jam on my iPad this morning. I was playing it back, and I got that feeling like, holy shit, this is what it's about. Right. So I may just be listening to something, and especially if it's something low end, if it's a rumble kick, I'm a sucker for those things. So if that's going on, I will stay as long as I can. Other times, it may be just a small channel, because I've gotten into this thing of late where I see somebody that has a small channel, maybe 30 subscribers, 75, 2 something. And I'll go back in their catalog, and they've got a video that is an absolute amazing track, and they'll have no comments. And it's been up for 2 years.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And I get it. You got to do you. I walk a very fine line. I could then say, hey, go out and support them, but I'm like, I can't do that, because I don't know you. I don't know your situation. Maybe you've got 3 jobs and you've got 5 kids and you're busy. Maybe you've got some medical things going on. I don't know you, but I know me. And I know I got the time to show this cat some love. I got the time to jump into the comments and say, man, this is a fire track. That's amazing. Or throw in some emojis.
Yep.
Because even though I'm not in it for the numbers, I'm a human being, and there's something about. So here's another story. When I worked in the hospital, when a patient took the time to say thank you, that was a powerful thing, because you think about it. You walk into in a building, you're in pain, you're hurting, and you need somebody to help you. Now, there's this unwritten rule that I don't know what year this started. We just assume that everybody's supposed to do the right thing, and it's not to be thanked. But the minute somebody does something wrong, we know how that story goes.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact that person then took the time to turn around and say to another human being, thank you. I said this back then. It beat any paycheck that I got. Now some would push back at that and say, oh, that's kind of hokey pokey. Fuck you. That's how I feel. That is a powerful thing to do. So because I miss the camaraderie of the emergency room. I don't miss the patient care. I don't miss the politics. I don't miss any of that stuff. But I miss that caring aspect. Yeah. And when I can go into somebody's channel, live stream, a video, and I can leave a comment, no matter how long I watch. Sometimes it can be a jam and it's a bit repetitive, and I can get the vibe, and that's all I need to hear. And I can check out. I can leave a comment. I am not required. There's no rule book. Now, what I do is I watch at least 30 seconds to give them that view time. Because I don't know where they're coming from. They may be trying to grow their channel. And as much as I say the numbers don't matter, I think we all look. And when you get someone that leaves feedback, that that means the world. So that's my way of saying thank you. So, yeah, I try and do that. So I usually wake up around 3, 4 in the morning. And the first thing that I do after I take everything else is I go on and I hit my subscribe, thing, and I look at who's done stuff. I love that YouTube is throwing me small channels. I've been getting hit with that a lot.
Yeah,
And
us too.
the thing is, there is so much fucking talent out there. Here's the thing. I used to be of this notion that today's music sucks. And I would say, old school hip hop is where it's at. I was a big fan of, groups like A Tribe Called Quest, Far Side. Like, there's nothing like that. I couldn't tell you who is today's rap group. I don't listen to today's rap music.
Right. Same here.
But when I listen to these small, and now again, yes, I'm biased because I'm into electronic right now and that type of thing. But even things that are like granular, people who are doing, modular. I mean, I even have a healthy respect for the modular community because, like, to me, that's just Greek. I don't know how they do it, but it's just amazing. And it's the sounds. It's like, yeah, music today is good, but it's everything. And again, this is no shade at the big channels. They put their time in, they provide a service. But it reminds me of high school a bit. And we had these things called cliques.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was in high school, I was a bit of a loner. I had a few friends. I think I talked about the art class. There was a thespian club, and to me, they were just loud and out there, and I just never really fit in. But I could see these. You had the athletes, you had the jocks, and everybody was kind of hanging on their jock, and like I just never really liked it. And I see the same thing here. And you've got these big channels. They run in circles, and like, you know what? That's fine. That's cool. But why not? And I think it kind of goes back to your statement earlier, what you guys are trying to do. Why not have our own little, let's just call it a clique, fine, where we can support each other. And if there are people like Real 1000 that want to grow a channel, hey, then come from jump and say, this is what we're trying to do.
Exactly. Exactly. You didn't have to join our Discord for that.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's why I don't like a lot of big channels anymore, because they forgot where they came from. And it's always about me, me, me. Now they developed this corporate attitude where the little guy isn't nothing. I was never there before. Now I'm just, you can always, I don't care how big this channel fucking gets real quick. I'm never going to forget where we came from. And I'm always going to search out those who don't have, and I'm going to try to give them everything.
Yeah.
And you're an influencer.
Really quick, Scruffy Fox is in the chat, and he said, I didn't read any offense in your comment.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So,
yeah, I doubt Scruffy did, too.
Yeah. And then...
I overthink stuff, so that's on me.
Yeah. And then... Sean Barnes, Shababy says, "What an amazing interview! I needed to hear this today."
It's for, I mean, it's for all of us. It's for all of us. We all getting the dose of reality here.
Yeah, and then for me, just personally, like for the modular channels and stuff, like when I go see them, I don't know. It's just like the naughty little girl inside of me, like 5 years old. I just want to go pull all the patch cables.
Oh, God. Tell me about it. Man, I'll help you, too. We can
just
turn out.
Especially the ones that have big old towers. Imagine, like,
just pull them
I
shit.
just want to pull every single one out.
What does this one do?
If you guys get over to the UK and see Andy, that's what you got to do. The first thing you walk into.
Or Grace.
Oh, my God. Andy would just be like,
Yeah, Grace would come unglued.
Unity says, the hell you will. Yeah. See the little naughty. I'm like, ooh, look, I'm going to pull.
For you, Wabbit, hip hop wise, there's this young, energetic group, and the name of the band is called Coast Contra. And
I follow them on Instagram.
You do yourself a favor, follow the band called Coast Contra. They're kids of not Razzcast.
Yeah, the twins of Razzcast.
Yeah, the twins of Razzcast. Okay.
I think they're on YouTube, right?
They are just like their father. They are just like Jurassic 5. They are just like everything you used to know.
Yeah.
But they're in their 20s and 30s. And you have to listen to them.
5%ers and stuff like that.
They are gorgeous to listen to. Everything about real hip hop is still alive. You just got to dig a little deeper.
They just took the 90s with them. And you could tell they have great parents because they're teaching them about accountability and respecting each other and not continuing to dig a hole for one another. So when people have asked this, why do we have a real hip hop channel in Discord? Now, you're not gonna like what I'm gonna say because I say what I'm fucking gonna say. There is intelligent black people music, and then there is nigger music. Now, the word nigger has a definition. If you don't know what that definition is, and if you think it means color, then you're sadly mistaken.
Ignorance.
But it means ignorance, and it doesn't have a color that's tied to it. And any music that sets us back, that puts our mind into a regressive form, that puts material over life, that constantly shits on one another,
demoralizes women.
That's nigger music. And
why we gotta use the hard ER?
Because that's how I use it.
Jesus.
And that will never get play in my ear.
You can use the A.
No, I get my point across my way.
He's getting his point
That'll
across.
never get play in my ear. I'll never allow it in Discord because it's not a place where. See, our Discord is a place of growth, human growth, and sharpen each other so we can learn to be better and do better. That's what I wanted from my Discord. And if anyone came in trying to change it or not adhere to the rules, it's one thing where we could...
Our Discord, but go ahead and go.
I know, right?
It's one thing to come in a Discord and not listen to the rules. This is for me. And if you do come in Discord, I'll still support you if you don't want to be a part of our Discord once you found out what it is. I'll still support you. Like, I'll still go and watch Real 1000 AM, but I don't expect anything else from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's not to say that I disrespect these people. But no, we're trying to get a movement here. And I'm very fucking passionate about trying to watch everyone's content. And every now and then I'll spread myself thin because I'm trying to consume everyone's content. You know?
Well, we practice what we preach.
Practice what we preach.
Right?
Or at least we try.
Yeah. We don't say, hey, go do out this. If you're going to be in our community, you know, support each other because, you know, we're all trying to get our music out there and stuff like that. And then here we are and we don't do shit.
Right.
Right? Like, we can't.
And I'm damn sure ain't going to blame no fucking holidays on why I'm not viewing someone's shit, but I'll sit there and fucking doom scroll all fucking day long.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point you just brought up there, Lamont, is, you know, people say, I don't have time to watch this. And then you think about all the time that we spend scrolling on social media. And that's what I'm trying to do. So, for example, I got rid of Instagram. I finally deleted it. I got rid of Twitter a couple months ago because I realized not only was it toxic and not providing me any value, I literally, like if I'm in the bathroom doing my thing, I'm just scrolling. That time could be firing up someone's channel and listening to a jam.
Fuck yeah.
Typically it's going for a couple minutes, you know, even if it's an hour long. Here's the other thing too that I really love, even the long form content, because, you know, there's been this narrative of those who are the YouTube gurus, you know, because everyone's trying to get a quick payday. And again, no shade. If that's what you want to do, if that's what you want to hustle, that's cool. But, you know, there's this idea you can't do long form content. Well, no. Yesterday I'm painting the space in here. And yeah, I had your thing on, but I could have easily found somebody that was doing an hour-long jam. And there's nothing wrong with putting it on the background. There's nothing that says that you need to be present every single 45 minutes.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so this idea that we don't have the time is bullshit. We have the time. You have the time to listen. You don't have to like every. I think that's the other thing too that gets kind of messed up here. No one is saying you need to like everything you hear. No, it's there are. We have local art fests and shows in town, and people set up booths, and you have people that do painting and woodworking and metalwork. You've probably been to these shows, and the one thing that I've observed when I'm walking through these things is people are moving. I have never heard one person say, "Man, you use that technique? What the fuck?" And I talked about, you know, you've got some bad apples in the space. And when I see people go in the comment sections, when I see people who take the time to put out negative energy because they don't like the way someone's using a tool, I'll never forget this. I did a video where someone's like, "Man, you're not using the gear to its fullest potential." I'm like, well, can you point me to the manual where it says I must use this gear to its full potential? It doesn't exist. Now, when you present that to me, I will be happy to read that and revisit that video and do it. But until that's, occurs, I do what I want to do, and you do what you want to do. And this space is so big, not just YouTube, but this music space is so big that we have the opportunity, we have the toys, we have the tools, whatever your thing is, whether it is a bass guitar, whether it's a keyboard, whether it's your mouth and beatbox on the table, whatever it is you want to do, fart, I don't care. You have the opportunity right now. If you're watching this, you are present, you are around. We have lost loved ones that don't have, I keep, and I don't want to bring up Risky all the time, but I hear your story, and when I hear what you talked about with him and Panda, and what he wanted to do. And I'm not saying us, but we are going to sit here. This is why I said earlier, I'm good having this conversation with you guys, and I'm good having those listen and be present. But we've got to do better with our time, folks. I can't stress that enough, because any one of us could walk. I mean, it sounds cheesy, it sounds cliche, it sounds old, it sounds tiring, but we could walk out the door and get hit by a bus, and that's it.
It's done. And you'll wish you had that time with that person.
Yeah. So take the time. I know I'm sounding contradictory here. I hate giving advice, but take the time to listen. I love going over to Recon, and someone could make the argument. I'm not saying it as Recon, but I've heard this where people say, "Oh, it's the same little thing." Let me get out of the music space. There was a photographer who has a very large channel. He has a very large afro. You may know who I'm talking about. I'll leave it at that. But he made this comment that really irritated me. White guy, matter of fact. But anyway, he said, "I've seen 5,000 pictures of the moon. Who cares?" It's like, what an arrogant statement to say. There's someone who has millions of subscribers, and this is one of the things that irritates me. So what if there's been I know there's been more than 5,000 shots, but guess what? You took that shot. I go outside and I look up at the sky at night. I go outside and I look up, and for me, it's just to look up. It's just to take things in. And if I want to take my phone out and take a crappy picture and share it online, guess what? You don't have to look at it. But you have the opportunity. It frustrates me that we take that time and we complain, we nitpick, we don't like what someone's doing with something. We're focused on the brand, we're focused on this. It's like, what about the experience? And there's something that I love ambient music. I never heard of it before getting into this space. And there's something about starting I'm not saying I start my day every day with ambient. Sometimes I fire up something techno. It's whatever. But when I make my morning coffee and someone has an ambient jam, and I'll let it play, and I literally will close my eyes, because that is one thing that I'm trying to do, is close my eyes and not be worried. Is it a Nord? Is it a this? Is it a that? I think that's one of the things that has been our downfall, is these two things right here, these eyes. We are so quick to judge. We are so quick to question. Use these things here and listen.
I think MARELYN and I have we share this same appreciation. I'm a bass player. I don't know what half these boxes are, other than what my brother has and what I see from the family. I have no desire to know. I don't care what sounds they make. I know it sounds great, but it's not my interest. Everybody that I go look at, it's not my interest. I love the people. I love what music that, like Scruffy Fox, ambient shit. I meditate to it. My person,
Scruffy Fox is the best in the morning.
I don't care what type of shit, because it's not my world. It's not my interest.
But you like the music.
But I love the music.
Yeah. That's a perfect example, and I love what Rabbit said. That sometimes it's not like your slice of cake, right? That you like. Perfect example. My favorite from Hardware Jams. his music is not the type of music that I would choose to listen to on a daily basis. There's some bits and pieces of it that I really do enjoy. But what I enjoy most about this individual is his artistic ability behind his music. It's fascinating to me. And you both know who it is.
TBS.
Yeah. Travis Benjamin Simpson. He is my favorite out of Hardware Jams. Like, it's just the way he does his videos and stuff like that. And every time he posts something, I'll go and support it, along with everybody else. But a perfect example of, you don't always have to like the music, but go and support your fellow
Perfect
musicians.
example. Davey, this morning, I don't even know what VSTs honestly are.
Yeah.
It's not my shit.
Yeah, same here. It's not VSTs aren't my thing either.
I go there because I love to hear Davey's voice.
Yeah.
She's always got something nice to say.
Yeah.
And
it's
feed
always
off that energy.
Yeah, and I feed off the energy and not go there just to listen
And she's
to her
always
voice.
entertaining
And-
you two's crazy asses.
Right.
I always say,
And be a part of that community.
right,
Yeah.
smell my fingers.
Yeah.
Like, you just take something away. You just want to help add to their content. Now, to go back with what Rabbit was...
Real quick, George G's said, "Hey, what's up, everybody? I've been out running errands, but I've been listening in. This interview with Rabbit has been the shit.
George G.
Shout out to S.O.R and Wabbit."
And that's the thing, right? Like he said, Rabbit said something about Recon. And I sat there and I told my wife, I said, you know, Recon's doing the same thing again. You know? And we understand that. We understand what Recon's channel is. And I go, oh, JRC is on Thursday. He's doing the same JRC. So here's the thing, when you know people are a particular artist, know what days that you want to consume their artistry. Because you don't have to be there every fucking time they go live. It's better for them that you go when you're in the mood for that piece of art.
Right.
Because if you're forcing yourself to be somewhere all the time and you don't want to be there, you're not going to like what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, and then I would say you're wasting your time.
Yeah, you're wasting your time and that person's time because you're not sitting there invested. Now, there has been times where we would watch Recon or JRC and we're cooking and we're doing something in the background like what Rabbit says. We're not going to be there to type in all fucking day long to see what everyone else is typing.
We're lurking gherkins.
We're lurking gherkins. I do it a lot with a lot of channels. Most of the time, I promise, you don't even know I'm fucking there.
Yep.
You know? And the other thing...
Get Jervis in 30 minutes.
Okay.
Just at FYI.
And the other thing is, for those of you who don't know where the Continental came from, it actually came from...
Synth Samurai.
Synth Samurai. And kudos to Synth Samurai for calling us the Continental, because Robbie had an issue with something. You could see it was stressing him out. You could see it made him uncomfortable. Echo Craft would sit and watch Synth Samurai being... Whether he was stressed out or not, it was still a thing. I'm sure he didn't want to have to continue to be in that light.
Well, and come to find out, it was stressing him out as well.
And it was stressing him out too, you know? And kudos for Synth Samurai, because I believe this is a big reason why Wabbit's here with this family. And we're fortunate to have a Krazy Wabbit in this family, who we can dub a general. It's because they found a neutral ground in which that this channel will not judge either party, but we won't have any bullshit come in. If you're a renegade and you're speaking bullshit on the Continental ground, you'll get disciplined. If you're a Saurian and you're speaking bullshit on Continental ground, you get disciplined. And we don't tolerate it. We are a neutral ground. You come here to be neutral. The clans can go back and do whatever the fuck they want with their parties.
Oh, look at the dog.
But not here. So it was very nice to see when I asked Wabbit, I said, hey, for this one day, can you be a moderator in our chat room so we can have as many eyes open as possible? And I told him, if they're not Saurian, consider them fucking enemies. And he knew it. He goes, okay, I could do that job. And Echo Craft came in and he watched his side of the party and the Renegades because everybody knew that it was a greater thing that needed to happen than what your ideas and your beliefs are. And that's what's beautiful about this channel. That's what's beautiful about this Discord is we're not going to tie bullshit to you. Leave it at home. Leave your ego at home.
And at the end of the day, it was affecting 2 good channels.
2 very good channels. And now look at us. All of us can thrive in either channel.
Right.
Be a part of people whom we're not familiar with.
Yeah, some days you just can't say, "Oh, this person said this about me," and walk away. If it can be mended, then that speaks volumes on how much growth both parties have.
Exactly.
Now you can share your fans. You can share the chat. Now people have an open mind to go support Samurai, and now people have a good open mind to go support PSN.
And now I'm starting to see a whole lot of Renegades all over the place. It's almost,
I love it.
It's almost like this thing was
it's a community.
Was broken.
Right.
You know, and
Kent said that Siri wants to date with Wabbit's dog.
Well, you're at the Continental. We make shit like that
happen.
Let me check with him. Do you want to date with Siri? Yeah, that was a yes. So absolutely.
It's like, finally, Dad, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just nice to have a community where everybody can come and I think that's why we love Popcorn Night too. And it was so nice to see
Echo in there.
Yes, and
hardware
Uncle
jammers
Jerry and Uncle Jerry submit.
Yeah.
Paulo
these,
Hanzo.
Oh, it was so nice to see so many new people submit for Popcorn Night, and not taking anything away from Hardware Jams, but it's just a way for people just to do them, you know, without any themes.
If you got VSTs, that's all you want to use, do it.
If you just have a guitar and you're singing and that's all, do it.
You want to juggle?
Fucking do it.
With a thong on and Kid Spawn riding your back?
I don't.
Do it.
I mean, we wouldn't be able to
We can't
air
do that?
it. No. No, we wouldn't be able to air that.
You see, at Uncle Jerry's house,
Nope. No, Lamar.
Yeah.
we ride the backs of our women and
Lamar,
we juggle
Lamar,
off of
bye,
them.
Lamar. Bye, Lamar.
All right, Wabbit. We have
It's fine.
We have 35 minutes. I got to ask this question. It's normally one of the last questions we
25
ask.
minutes.
25 minutes.
Jeez.
Do you believe in aliens? Have they come to visit us?
Look at the dog looking at it. It's like, Dad.
It's like, don't answer it, Dad. Don't you
Dad.
fucking do it. They're
Don't tell them
bringing
about
you
the
in.
probe.
Are there aliens, Duncan?
He's like,
Yeah.
there's a snack.
Yeah,
calling
I just
me.
want or the treats, absolutely. You know, if you'd asked me this question 10 years ago, I'd have said no, because I was in that mindset. You know, just I was of the belief I need to see something, I need proof. I always was wondering, you know, are these photos doctored? Bigfoot has always been around. Loch Ness Monster's been kind of quiet lately. I wonder if they gave up on that one, because that
He's
used to be
probably
a thing.
scared now.
Right. And then as I listened to the both of you and going back to or listening to your podcast and where I'm at now, the things that I've gone through, I agree with the idea that it would be silly for me to question what somebody saw. Now, yeah, it's easy to sit here and say, well, you know, was the person on some medication? You know, did they have some acid? Were they high? You know, that always happens. You know, do we believe stuff online? It's interesting. You know, the things we do believe, the things that we don't. You know, I'm not going to get into the politics thing, but it's just very bizarre. So to answer your question, to think that as tiny of a thing that we are here on this planet in this universe, to think that we are the only, whether it's a form like us or whether it's something else, if that is true, wow. I mean, that's unbelievable. But B, I just find it hard to believe. But we just have no way to get that answer. Now, I think every answer that I would tell you, it's been heard. You know, who would want to come visit this planet with some of the interesting people that we have on this planet? Who would want to visit us? You know, are there things? I don't know. I mean, would it be cool? I don't know. I mean, what's there? You guys have touched upon this a lot in listening. You know, what if, you know, they're like, you know, something that's bad and you know, gonna, you know, take over us, and you know, so I think for me it goes back to I'm not really concerned with it in my day-to-day life, to be honest with you, because it's one of those things. There's so many answers out there, and you know, there's the whole section about what is the government hiding from us? You know, do they have things in Area 51, Wright-Patterson, not far from where I lived? And I actually spent some time in the Air Force in the reserves. You know, there was, you know, places we were not allowed to go to. So, yeah, I mean, is there something out there? There is, but then are we of the mindset to be able to handle those things? So if something came out and said definitively, yes, you're going to have one person that says, see, I told you so, they were lying to us. You're going to have another person, no, it's fake. You have another person, they're probably, you know, tripping out on acid and we'll miss the news. I mean, there's just so many things that I don't know that even if we found out, you know, if there were aliens, there are a lot of questions, and I don't really have a good answer for you, to be honest with you. So
why do you think our government and our mainstream media now are taking this serious? They're no longer mocking it and making fun of it. They're now showing it in the form of all of these government officials are coming out and they're saying, hey, we're not alone. Why do you think this is now in the media and they're showing this to us?
Social media. I mean, think about it. When prior to this, you know, they had things under control and they had the narrative. You know, now you can't, with everything else out there, with people having the ability to upload stuff, put their own thoughts out there, blogs, you know, it's there's no way they can contain it. So at some point, the noise becomes so great, and maybe there's some evidence, maybe there's this or that. The pressure becomes too great that you cannot contain it. So the fact that we now have the internet and everything on, or there's maybe something else that I'm not aware of, that, you know, there's another agenda, because I think, to your point, Lamont, I have my skepticism of what we hear out there, and I am not very easy to believe everything that I hear that comes from those. So even if they were to tell us this, is it going to be, I mean, we've seen in history where things are redacted and we only get to see a few lines. Well, what's being redacted? So,
right.
You know, who knows? I mean, we always hear the story of when there's an incoming president here in the United States, there is a letter that is sent to them. And within that letter, supposedly there is everything that we don't know about that's passed down. So there's that aspect, you know, but again, that's speculation. I don't know that. And again, I think it's going back. I apologize for sounding like a broken record, but I don't concern myself with that in the day-to-day goings. I'm okay with this in a conversation here, you know, but if the news comes out, my question to me is, okay, is it going to do anything for the betterment of human society? What is there something that's going to fix our planet? Is there something that's going to make us be kinder to each other? Is it something that's going to cure cancer? I mean, what's the end play here?
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that. Outside of the bullshit, what does Wabbit think if tomorrow it's here, right? Aliens are here, and not our people telling us, but them themselves telling us. And I think those are legit sound questions from a sound mind
to ponder.
To ponder. What is their intent? How long have they been here? What do they know about the universe? What do they know about this? Those are just curious, natural human questions.
How would it affect you how would it affect you if you knew, if that happened tomorrow? How would it affect you?
I'm not going outside. I think that's what's the saying when you're watching a movie? Black folks ain't going outside checking that stuff.
No.
We are not curious. Nope, we ain't doing that shit.
Nope.
So is that what
I'm
you would do
locking the door.
literally? Is that what you would do literally?
Because and maybe that's just what I've been brought up on and what I've seen, because I don't know if I don't trust my neighbor, and that's just in generality. I'm just not walking up into my neighbor's house and kicking back. I mean, unless we don't, you have this healthy skepticism of other human beings, because there are people that, you know, are going to be doing nefarious type things. So if I have that, and then someone from outer space comes down and lands, I should have the same thing. Like, well, do I just now? Yeah, there's going to be somebody that's going to run out there with their phone, taking a video, throwing on TikTok. You're going to have that crowd. So for me,
that's bait.
I'm letting them be the guinea pig.
Yeah, we call that bait.
Absolutely. You know, and if I'm looking out my window and I see them get zapped up and disappeared, and their clothes fall down, maybe some intestines fall out, I'm like, yeah, we're staying inside. It's not a good thing. Now, if they come down and, you know, they're speaking a language we can understand, you know, and you know, they jump on the news and, you know, we're all, you know, holding hand. Yeah, then we can come outside and have a conversation. But I think and I think that comes back to, that's just our animalistic nature.
Exactly. I was just going to say that it's what we were spoon fed.
Right. You know, well, and just in terms of survival. I mean, think about it. Before all this stuff, you did have people, animals that would go and look, and then whoops, got their head chopped off. I'm going to back off. I think you guys talked about this in an episode once, where it's like, yeah, you know, I think it was something with the monkeys. Like, yeah, that didn't do too well for that person. We're going to kind of hold off and maybe not go there, touch that oven, you know, and let those people, because they're going to be those that Darwin will, you know, happily, you know, take off the cliff, and then we can kind of sit back and maybe learn from that.
Right. Yeah.
We got about 15 minutes left. I want to ask Rabbit. So, you said you had type 2 diabetes before. So are you healthy now? Is that all under control? And
it's being maintained, put it that way. My last one was back up to 6.7. My weight is probably about 215, so I've got some work to do. But it's really a mindset for me. I've been really just trying to be better with what I eat, in terms of I still kind of do the intermittent fasting, but not all the time. I was pretty hardcore. I think for me, it's more of a lifestyle change that I have to put my mindset on. And I was so focused on like the BMI, and a doc told me once, like, you know what, how do you feel at this weight? Because no one ever said that to me. It was like, you've got to be this weight based on your height. That's what I was trying to be hyper focused on. And I kept getting on the scale every day and looking at it. I wasn't there. It was like beating me up mentally. So for me, it's like, how do I feel? And I can kind of tell, am I doing the right things? Absolutely no. I mean, I'm with you guys. Sugar, to me, that is something, and carbs. I can't mess with bread very, very heavily. I have to be careful with that. I have to find, you know, what works for me. So it's something that I know what I need to do. There are parts of me that still slip back into that denial. I'm be completely transparent with you. That's what got me into trouble. And I heard you guys talk to Panda and talking about that. And as I'm listening to that conversation, I think we have to find what works best for us. And I know that you guys have talked about a book and things of that sort, and have given people advice. We're all different in terms of our chemistry makeup and how we react to food. We have certain allergies and things like that. And I'm not a fan of diets. I'm a fan of a lifestyle.
Yeah, it is. That's all I preach.
And the thing that I think that's important that we as a music community need to do better at is move. Like I'm sitting here and I wanted to do what Sam did and stand, but I couldn't get things set up the right way. But I need to get back to going out and hiking once a week. And I learned that when I do those hikes that you burn a lot of calories, and you do that on a regular basis, I was seeing results. I've got now out here in Virginia, because I no longer live in Nevada, it gets a little colder, but I can't make excuses. And that's the other thing that I have to be careful with. So it's manageable. I know I have work that I have to do, and it's something that I continue to work on.
Well, we ask and we poke and prod these questions because, you know, the S.O.R community for us is very important, and we care about you and we love you, and so we want you around. And your health is very important to us.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that book that we so heavily talk about, it's not necessarily like a diet book. It's more geared towards understanding what the body does and how it does it and why it does it. And then it gears it towards more of a lifestyle change. And it's all science based. And it helped Lamont get out of that pre-diabetic stage. It's an amazing book. Steve also wants to ask, what was the intermittent fasting ratio that you did that you found?
So it was I would eat from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then the rest of the time I wouldn't eat. It would just be water or maybe coffee or tea. So I went a little too hardcore with it. I went 7 days a week, and that's how I was able to get my A1C down to 5.7. So it can be done. The problem is I went a little too hardcore. And I literally it was watching the carbs. It was, they do it based on male and female. I think it was like 45 carbs per meal, I think. Could I go back and do it? Absolutely. But it was a bit hardcore. So for now, it's just kind of, maybe a couple days a week, I'll try and do it.
Yeah. The one big thing I would encourage you to stop saying, Wabbit, is handing out advice. Are you familiar with the term man sharpens man?
Yes.
Okay. The only way you could do that is give advice. So the advice may not be for everyone, but you can't augment your thought process on not giving advice, because there are a lot of people who need the advice, who want to hear your advice. People like myself and others who can't speak for themselves right here because they're not on the platform right now. So it's not for everyone, but it's for everyone. You see what I'm saying? Like, we depend on each other's advice. And no, none of us are psychologists, but you know what? I need to talk to you. I need you to understand what's going on in my mental capacity. Maybe I don't want to talk to a psychologist, because who's talking to the psychologist?
But we all have a PhD in life, right?
We all have a PhD in experience in life, and we depend on each other's advice. I depend on your advice. You are a little older than me, and if you're not teaching us and you're not helping to sharpen us, get us around that corner you've been around 80 more times than we have, then what's it worth? So that's my...
You have to pass it down.
That's my look at that. So I wouldn't really... If people don't want to take the advice, don't take it. But that shouldn't let a man of your wisdom and caliber not give it. So, I mean, I really like to see you stop saying that and start saying more, because there's more for me to learn from a person like you.
Oh, yeah.
I hold you in the highest light. I always will. It's a reason why you're the general, and you're only going to get promoted from there.
Well, it's funny. I know there's a lot of people in the Discord who look forward. I know I do. Look forward to the morning rants.
Right. Because there's something to be learned in those morning rants.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I know we got short on time, but I just want to say it comes from a place of love. I appreciate and I need to hear that, Lamont. So thank you.
Yes.
Because I know that is something that is one of my downsides. But I also just want to thank those within the S.O.R family, and there's no way that I can name every single one.
Yeah.
There are people who, and it's every single one of you. And it's not only your music, and I can't wait to hear more of these interviews, because as much as I love what you guys do music-wise, I love more hearing your stories. Quick story. When I was on Facebook, I had to do a Zoom test for somebody, and we would get into it with politics. And when I saw that person's face on the other end, it changed everything. And this was the exact same person who told me it was okay to go home. And there is something about, I think you said it the other day, there's musicianship, there's getting to know the person beyond the music. And I keep going back to it. When I heard Robbie talk yesterday, when I hear Kent talk, when I heard Sam talk, and whoever you have lined up, I may not be there live to listen. I'm going to do my best to be there, but I'm going to listen to that. And I hope that every one of you have the opportunity. So my advice is to sign up in the Discord and Cress. I mean, even if Cress does not put his face on camera, I want to hear what Cress has to say, because there is wisdom in that cat.
A lot.
There's wisdom in Steve. There's wisdom in Anna, Andy, every single one of you. Scruffy, the newcomer, everybody. You have a story to tell, and I can't wait to hear everyone. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to Lamar and Lamont, because you two are like brothers to me. You are like because I lost mine, and we may not see eye to eye on everything. We may not text all the time. I have a good brother who I text with on a regular basis, so I'm good. But when I get a text from both of you, it makes my day, as silly as whatever it is. So I want to say thank you to MARELYN, even though my nose has been busted up time and time again.
You know, it's all out of love.
I appreciate what you are doing. And now I know Lamar's better half. I know I need to check myself. I'm like, oh, okay, I got to be careful. So thank you. But to everybody else in the family, this is my opportunity to say thank you to you, because you are fucking amazing. You do great things, and I can't wait to hear your story. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Real quick, this is for Rabbit and Lamar.
Okay.
What the fuck went on with the wake up? Okay, why did you guys bail out so soon and leave me there to put the pieces together to go, oh, I know what this is, you bastards. You judged a man too quickly.
I was trying to help. It was a small channel, and then suddenly it was like, this is the wake up. Be present or something. And
pay attention.
I thought I was doing the right thing, putting in the group, and then I was like, okay, am I in an experiment? Is what I didn't know what was going on, and I was just like, what do I do? And so then you guys like, you need to check this out, and then I listened to one, and this sounds kind of weird, but I was like, wait a minute, something's like I was getting mesmerized or hypnotized. I'm like, okay, this is so I don't know what's going on.
I tell you what, though, Wabbit, when I followed your ass in there and I realized, okay, so the Wabbit and I are going to start texting or chatting, and we're going to blow this dude's channel up. We're going to have a great time. The moment it stopped and he said those few words and it said private channel or whatever, and Wabbit doesn't say anything in the chat, right? We both leave. He goes to Discord and goes, well, that kind of didn't work out the way I thought it. And I'm like, Wabbit, what the fuck did you just drag us into, man? I feel like we were in a cult or some shit. And so we had to like Christian ourselves. We had to sacrifice carrots to the Wabbit hole. And
So when I went and I saw you guys' message on Discord, I went, okay, so what is this wake up channel? So I went and I sat and I watched a few videos. And here's this guy going, the wake up is now. Pay attention. I was like, okay, wait a minute. Let me watch another video. And then it clicked on me. I said, oh, I get it. I've seen a guy like this before. Sen Samurai.
Persona.
Right? I've seen this persona, like not this, but I'm like, he's doing something. So I commented and I said, are you Alan J. Hynek? And he corrected me on the spelling and said, you mean Alan J. Hynek? Yes, I am.
Or J. Allen Hynek.
Yeah. And then he goes, yes, I am. And I go, okay, I get this. And then we actually had a normal conversation. And I was like,
and you had me watch it. I
said,
like,
Meryl, you watch this.
Totally.
Yeah. So Wabbit, Lamar, you guys did good, but I think you just
you jumped the gun.
Didn't know what to really make of it.
Well, I'm sorry, but
if anyone gets a chance, and I don't know, he watches the Wabbit's content. I saw he left a content or a comment.
Yeah, and he comes on ours too.
Right, and he comes on our channel.
Yes.
The guy he's not very boisterous. He may be lurking right now.
He probably is.
He doesn't leave a lot of comments. You probably won't even know he's there. But please do us a favor from the Wabbit, Moser, Symptoms of Reality, and Trusto 101. Subscribe to his channel. Leave him a comment. What he is doing.
Or at least check him out.
Or check him out. The dude is brilliant at what he does.
And he's a great modular synth player.
He plays modular. Andy Synchrotron, he knows, he's been there.
And he has a Stormtrooper.
And he has a Stormtrooper, and he really likes Iron Eagle.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep. For real.
Pay attention.
I did subscribe and I did comment, so I have gone back and watched. So
Yeah, me too.
It's great.
Yeah. And once you get it, you get it. You understand.
You understand.
It.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And hopefully he agreed to come on for an interview too.
Yes, he did.
So we'll really get to know him.
Yeah. Krazy Wabbit, thank you so much for coming on.
We love you, brother.
It was a pleasure. We'll probably have you on again because we still have
so many more questions.
Of questions.
Sam and I'm down to do something with you. So.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, together.
Yeah, they're both willing to come on together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be so much fun.
Yeah. So let's do that.
Don't forget, everybody. We have Get Jarvis right after us at 5. The link is pinned in our chat, and then next Sunday at 3 p.m., possibly 2. I don't know. I have to talk to Andy. Synchrotron is
Ooh, the Synchrotron.
This is gonna be interesting.
And he's convinced that it's only going to be 30 minutes because he's so boring and blah, blah,
Which
blah,
everybody
blah,
knows
blah.
that's some bullshit.
Yes.
He'll fall asleep on you.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Night.
You know, with that being said, it's going to be an amazing interview with Synchrotron. So don't miss it out. Let's get to know all of our S.O.R community. These folks are our celebrities.
Word.
So don't forget to come by.
Yeah, we love you guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Wabbit.
Thank you, Wabbit.
Love you.
We'll see you guys
Love
tomorrow.
you guys. Take care.
Yep.
See you in the comment box.
Bye.